Okay.
All right.
John's kindly put together a tier list with all the games that we tried, we checked out during Next Fest, all the demos. And we're going to just go through each of them with our thoughts and slap them on the tier list.
Yep.
And I've loaded up a YouTube stream of lo-fi video game music to just help break the silence.
Yeah, good. Something in the background. All right. I guess.
And get us copyright struck.
Yeah, I think we have almost double the games we did last time we did this.
Yeah, I don't remember how many we did last time.
I think we have 60 here, and I think we had at least 30 last time.
Okay.
So I don't think we had 40. All right. But I think like the first few are, if we're going alphabetically, are all ones I played. So
yeah,
I'll get started.
The soonest one for me is Black Shard.
Yeah. So yeah, what's the exact title? Okay. 3D Escape Room: Detective Story was one I played.
Fun.
Based on the description, I was kind of hopeful this would be something that sort of combined like an escape room style game with maybe a bit of mystery solving, deduction and stuff. And based on the Steam description, it kind of sounded like it would be like that. But based on the demo, not really.
Oh, really?
It's pretty much just like a standard kind of escape room game, at least from the demo. Maybe there's like some connective tissue where you do some crime solving, but I'm a bit skeptical.
It's not there. Yeah, it wasn't present in the demo.
No. What was there was like fine. It was pretty solid, like escape room stuff. It's sort of closer to like if you remember the House of Tesla demo,
yes,
from last fall. It's like that where you kind of have like a fixed perspective. You move from instead of like having free movement like in the escape memoirs.
Sort of move to different screens.
Yeah,
in a way.
The most annoying thing was there was one puzzle where it's like one of those sort of sliding block puzzles where you have to get like one block out, move everything out of the way. I'm always annoyed by those when they show up. Also, there was one puzzle where you have to like find a switch on the side of a cabinet, and like the fixed perspective stuff made that a little annoying to see.
Okay.
But what was here was solid. I'm not like super excited about it, but it feels like it's pretty solidly in like waiting for a sale territory for me. But like a pretty sizable sale. Yeah. I guess they have another escape room game too called like The Chinese Room that also looks similar but also like polished and well executed.
Okay.
So might check that out sometime. Again, if it's on sale. Okay. Up next is Am I Nima?
Okay.
This was the last thing I played for Next Fest because I wanted like a nice solid rectangular games. Do you need to take a minute?
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
Sorry.
This is really unique. You play as a little girl who may or may not be Nima. You wake up chained to a chair in like a basement, and your mother is there. She says you are chained up or tied up for your safety. She just needs to ask you a few questions to make sure you're okay, and also to make sure that you are actually her daughter.
Okay.
It seems like some really strange stuff has gone down. So the way the game works is you sort of like, you have like words on a list. You wake up with no words, but then like the dialogue sort of gives you a few words to start working with. You can like combine them inside your brain to create new concepts. Then you can take a concept and drag it to your mouth to create the sentence Nima says to her mom.
Okay.
So yeah, the idea is you have to convince your mom that you are Nima. Otherwise, some bad stuff is going to happen, which does happen at the end of the demo.
God. Okay.
It doesn't seem it's possible to avoid it in the demo, but it's definitely setting up a lot of like really strange horror, science fiction kind of stuff going on. I think the demo might tip its hand a bit too much about what exactly is happening, but it also feels like it might be a pretty short game, so maybe that's not too bad. But I'm really intrigued by this. I think the gameplay is pretty unique. The vibes are great. Really cool art design. I don't know if I'd stream it. Future Stream is our new top category, but sort of I'm in between Future Stream and on the wish list.
Okay.
I think I'll go with on the wish list for now.
Okay. Sure.
Yes. Then I have Best Served Cold, another mystery solving game, but this one is also combined with a drinks serving game. You're in a country that is currently under prohibition, and you're a bartender in a speakeasy.
Okay.
And one day, a police officer shows up.
Oh no.
Who knows that this is a speakeasy, but also wants your help catching a serial killer because they know the serial killer is like targeting people who go to speakeasies.
Uh-oh.
So, like, in order to not get arrested and have your place of work shut down, you have to help them out by serving drinks and interrogating customers. I like this quite a bit. I thought it was pretty fun, and I have been looking for games to give me an excuse to make more cocktails. And this has a lot of, like, one, it has both, like, fun, original cocktails, and two, it also gives you the ingredients.
Oh, that's nice.
It might be a bit easier to make them yourself.
And the ingredients are like real things that
like
exist
real,
in this world.
Like alcohol
Not
and
like,
stuff,
like Grammartine or whatever it's called in Valhalla.
I will say, like, I think, like, games like Valhalla and the other Valhalla-likes that have come out kind of live and die on how fun the characters are to interact with.
Absolutely.
That's why, like, so many games have struggled to recapture the Valhalla magic.
Yeah.
And I don't think Best Served Cold is, like, quite there.
Okay.
Like, none of the characters really jumped out and, like, grabbed me. But then again, one of them is also probably a murderer. I also, like, the demo goes, like, about halfway through, like, this serial killer case. You have, like, a time limit, a certain amount of days where you have to find everything you can before you have to, like, say who you think it is. So yeah, it goes about halfway through that. And if it's only that one case, it seems like it'd be a pretty short game, but I think there might be multiple cases you go through in this, and that might, you know, give them excuses to introduce more characters, bring back non-murdering characters, and whatnot. The time limit thing does, like, worry me a bit too, because if you screw up drinks, you sort of lose your ability to talk to people, or at least not ask them as many questions as you can.
Okay, so it gamifies it a little more than the typical sort of bartender sim.
Yeah, and I do worry that, like, if you get into a hole, it might be, like, really difficult to find everything you need to successfully solve a case, because like, not everyone shows up on every day. But what is there is really solid. I might put this in future stream just because I want an excuse to make more cocktails, and I think that's fun.
It's always...
I did enjoy what I saw here.
That always definitely increases the incentive to stream something as an excuse to play around with drink mixing.
Oh,
excuse me.
Sorry, I had another tier. I must not have saved. So.
Oh, whoops. We can add it real quick.
Yeah, I was gonna. Oh yeah. Oh, I think right here. Below. There's gonna be, like, not for me.
Oh yeah.
You suggested that category.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll make this light blue.
Okay.
Make this like a dark blue. And
there we go.
Pass can be like purple.
Sure.
Okay.
All right.
Because I have a not for me coming right up.
Okay, good.
So Beyond the Ice Palace 2.
Ooh, a sequel.
It is. I wasn't sure if this was like an actual sequel or like a fake sequel. Because I have a fake sequel coming later in the broadcast. But it is an actual sequel to a game from like the late 80s that was on like the Amiga and the Atari and the Commodore 64.
Oh, okay.
Like those systems. And that game, I guess, was kind of like... I saw it compared to like Ghosts and Goblins, like those like really hard like side-scrolling fighting games. This really it gets lumped in with Metroidvanias a lot, and I can see that definitely. But it's really close to like the early Castlevanias, like before they added in the more like Metroidy elements of more open exploration. It's much more like it feels like level to level. The map's linked, but it's definitely split up into discrete chunks that each feel like their own levels.
So the earlier Castlevania games were more linear, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't aware of that.
Like the Nintendo and Super Nintendo ones.
Okay.
I think Symphony of the Night was the first one where it's more what we'd think of as
that does seem like the most noteworthy one.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's also like more Castlevania-y stuff in it. Your main character is like an old king who was cursed and has been brought back to life, but they had him like chained up somewhere because I guess he was in some sort of zombie rage before this, and you fight using the chains you were chained up with.
Like a whip.
Basically like a whip. And you can also like use the chains to like grapple onto stuff and do lots of swinging and stuff.
Yeah. Lots of fun gamey things you can do with that kind of material.
Yes, exactly. There's some sort of light RPG mechanics. You like build up points and you can spend them for stat boosts. There's a couple bosses in the demo, and I like them somewhat, but the last boss in the demo, while it's really like very visually impressive, good pixel art, good design, just a big giant monster to fight, it was like really easy to just kind of cheese it out.
Oh.
Like when I beat it, I just like stood in the corner and like it was pretty easy to dodge all the attacks. It has a big setup in the arena where you have to like grapple points over it, and the idea is like, I assume you're supposed to dodge attacks that way, but it ended up not being necessary.
Oh, okay.
This is pretty solid, I thought, but it's sort of not for me. It doesn't really do the things I like in this sort of side-scrolly game, and I don't really know the original game, and I don't know, nothing just really grabbed me about it, though I think it is like a pretty well-executed game for what it was. I don't really like those earlier Castlevanias. I haven't played a bunch of them. I played the Bloodstained game that's like that. They had one that's like a general Metroidvania and one that's more like the early Castlevanias.
Oh, okay.
But that one didn't grip me too much either. But this came out today, actually.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
Cool.
Good demo. Not something I'm super into.
All right. So we're finally at a game I played.
Yep.
This is called Black Shard, and this is the first of at least of more than one game I played that is very ambiguous and takes place inside some kind of mysterious megastructure.
Oh boy.
But this one has lots of weird abstract shapes and fractals and stuff. And I don't know if you've played a bit of Destiny 2, but if you've ever been inside one of the pyramid ships, that's what this feels like.
Okay.
And that's actually not the only similarity to Destiny it has, because like it has very cryptic writing, maybe like frustratingly so. But but the writing itself is like musings on like light, darkness, and like the nature of the universe, and like really like heavy, high-minded stuff like that.
Yeah, that sounds like the Destiny I remember.
But I still thought the environments were pretty interesting. It kind of when I was feeling kind of catty, I thought it was like the sort of environment design was like, what if the makers of Destiny never had a moment where like, all right, we're having a lot of fun here, but we do need to market this to Call of Duty playing 10-year-olds. But yeah, there's really not much. There's not really puzzles or anything. It's mostly just like navigating a space when the path forward isn't always clear, because it does branch off a few times. But you walk around, and so from what I could gather about the story, I forget what, I think it's called The Labyrinth is what the game takes place in, and the labyrinth exists at the root of the Tree of Fate, and they have these kind of mysterious voices saying that like which one influences the other, and was one thing that these voices say over and over. It's like embrace the tyranny of fate. But then there's these like weird like abstract beings that are locked inside that you free, that are trying to defy fate. And so that's where the conflict comes in this story, at least as close as you can like piece one together with like how ambiguous all the writing is. But again, it's a walking simulator, so it's not that thrilling in terms of like the raw gameplay, but it was still interesting enough to play through. I don't know how much I would play it myself, though. I'd say maybe waiting for reviews on that one.
Neat. Bokura Planet.
Yes. We played this a few days ago.
Yeah.
Sequel to the first game that we
We enjoyed it. We actually played it twice, so we could see.
That's right.
both
Yeah,
branches.
got the
Mhm.
true ending where
Yeah.
we got eaten. I think.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, hard to tell exactly what was happening
Yeah.
there. This looks, I think, very good. It's definitely more Bokura.
Yes, it's very similar.
Yeah, I do hope the full game, which I guess is going to be completely different than the demo, has like something kind of similar to the mechanic in Bokura, where each side saw a different. thing.
Yes, I was kind of disappointed. It didn't seem to have like completely different like perspectives and styles between
Yeah.
the two players. But like all the puzzle stuff that we did was definitely like classic Bokura
Yeah, it was-
puzzle design.
It was very. I would have liked to see maybe something new or different. I hope there is like some new
Yeah.
stuff in the full sequel.
I do applaud them for doing something different in terms of like the setting and characters and
Yeah.
like conceits. It feels very different in that regard.
Yeah, I think the biggest like difference for me, I think that makes me really interested, is that like in the first game, like both characters essentially had the same goal. They might like
yeah,
see different things that like may influence their decisions, but like Bokura Planet looks like the characters might be like in actual opposition to each other.
yes, it's really
It's
interesting.
like closer to like a way out.
A way
maybe,
out, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm curious to. I'm really curious to see how that plays out, especially with the hindsight of how a
Yeah.
way out ended up, which
Yeah.
I was not pretty not happy with.
Yeah. But yeah. I think,
I would say this is probably going to be a future stream,
Yeah.
for being honest.
yeah, I think this is. We're always looking for co-op games.
Yeah,
so,
good co-op games
Unless-
that are fun and interesting.
yeah. Unless like it comes out to like disastrously bad
Yes,
reviews, I
yeah.
think like that's definitely something we'll probably stream in the future.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now the case of the worst day ever.
Mm.
This Next Fest, I played 3 different games that were basically the case of the Golden Idol, but funny and cozy.
Okay.
This
all
is
right.
one of them. I think this was probably the weakest of the 3 I
Okay.
played. It's kind of basically what it says on the tin. You're like sort of observing a family, and each member of the family has something happen to them that makes it the worst day ever,
Ah,
and you have to find out what that was. The store description makes it seem like there might be like a second half where you like try to help resolve things in the
Mhm.
family or watch things resolved. But what's here seems fine. Like there's nothing
mhm.
exactly gripping about it. It was a little funny, a little cute. The puzzle solving was all right. I think it runs into the same problem a lot of like Golden Idol likes run into, where it's like it's good at setting up the mystery and the potential solutions, but not quite as good at eliminating options,
Uh-huh.
like
Okay.
disproving what it could be. I think it
narrowing
definitely
things
like
down.
runs into that in like the last case in the demo. It did have pretty clever puzzle in the second case you do,
Okay.
where the sort of main person you're following there has like found a torn up note and tried to put it back together to get instructions for something, but you have to figure out one, that they put it back together wrong, and two, how they put it back together wrong to
okay.
sort of solve something. And I thought
That's
that was
cool.
pretty clever.
Yeah.
But this was fine. I'm not like super invested, but I'm always looking for mystery solving games.
Yeah.
There is one weird thing about this. I first heard about this actually a couple months ago, and back when I first saw it, it had a completely different art style.
Oh.
Well, not completely different, but all the characters were kind of different.
Mm.
If you know there's a Twitter artist called like Flork of Crows,
Oh, I haven't
does like
heard of them.
web comics, and like they do a lot of like they have their own VTuber agency and do some sort of VTuber meme stuff. But originally all the characters looked like they were designed
Oh, okay. I recognize. it.
in
Okay.
that style.
Oh, okay.
But like when it came up for Next Fest, all the characters had been redesigned. I wonder if
Oh.
like something happened behind the scenes, like they said, "Hey, you're biting my style" or something.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I have no evidence. Maybe they just wanted to do something more unique. But I think this is waiting for reviews, maybe,
Okay,
or waiting
sure.
for a sale.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. It hasn't quite proved itself as
Yeah,
to
I
be
would
the
say
caliber of like Golden Idol, so
that. Mm-hmm.
see what other people think first.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay. I played this next one. It's called Chambers,
Mhm.
and it's sort of like a comedy Western FPS, but has like part of the comedy in it is it has these like weird gimmicky systems to it.
Okay.
There's like a bunch of like inventory management and kind of weird controls, like not weird controls to like the level like, I don't know if you've ever played Cruelty Squad that has like really intentionally weird controls.
I haven't, but I know its reputation.
But like in order to open your inventory, you have to look down and you like splay all your guns out on the ground. And you like move your mouse to choose between them. Then you have to like manage different kinds of ammo and stuff. But the world is very sort of low poly. It's kind of that sort of a PS1 demake style. And the writing comedy is very fun. The gameplay is really rough though. Especially someone like me that's like really sensitive to like snappy, responsive shooting. It definitely leaves a bit to be desired, but I almost suspect that might be part of like the intent,
like an intentional troll sort of
thing. A lot of stuff feels troll-ish. I wasn't able to finish this demo because I did like I think I was on like a mission to retrieve something from like a bandit hideout, but I came to a part where I didn't really have a lot of options other than to like try and shoot my way through a large pack of bandits, and I just died and got caught in like a death loop where I'd respawn close by, but then I'd be aggroed by them immediately. But I'm still intrigued by it. I'm curious to see what it could be like with more polish, or if more polish is even intended. So this is also going to be like another waiting for reviews for me.
Yeah.
But what I will say, like I said, some of the systems are like goofy and different. But I think one of the biggest barriers for me is the interface is just really weird and difficult to read. There's a lot of like letters and numbers and like small fonts, and there's not really much tutorializing to like parse it all. Parse, that's a big word. A lot of it was difficult to parse. Yeah. So
there were quite a few things I thought I saw at this XFX that were like kind of under tutorialized.
Yeah.
I just imagine that's the difficult thing, especially when something's in development and things may change.
Yeah. That is like one of the common threads between this next fest and the last one. I think a lot of these developers kind of struggle with how to actually like teach how they want their game to be played.
Yeah, I'll have a few of those coming up as well.
But I think this one was still really charming overall. But yeah, I think it's solidly in waiting for reviews.
Okay. And then there's Chromagun 2.
Yeah, this is another one I played. This is apparently a sequel. I never played the first one. It's a this is also another kind of its own sort of genre, sort of a Portal inspired first person puzzle game.
Okay.
Except in this case, you're playing around with colors.
Oh yeah.
And
I think now the first one's sounding kind of familiar.
Oh, okay.
Heard about it at some point.
So you get like a color gun that shoots, I believe it's red, blue, and yellow, and then you could of course combine them into like the secondary colors like purple, orange, and green. But like colors are attracted to one another like magnetically, and so there's like different surfaces you can paint. But there's like some surfaces that are solidly one color. You can also remove colors from surfaces, but not all surfaces. Some surfaces like have to be. You can't like a surface like, for example, there's one surface that's red. You can't remove the red, but you can add blue or yellow to change that red to like orange or purple.
Nice.
And so that's kind of the main conceit of like how these puzzles are solved. And it was pretty fun for the most part. The writing's really funny and charming, like like you would expect like a Portal to be. But some of the latter puzzles ended up being really obtuse with the way you solved them.
Okay.
To the point, like one of which I still don't really know how I solved, and then another one that when I had to look up how to solve, and the only thing I could find was somebody speedrunning it, and the way they solved it made me mad.
Okay.
And I still don't believe that's how you're supposed to solve it, because it completely like it like completely like ignores like an entire like section of like the puzzle area that you can go into as the player. But I still could not for the life of me figure out what the function of that part was. So, but then it was kind of redeemed a bit with the final puzzle, which didn't have any of that frustrating. It was still difficult, but didn't have any like the frustrating aspects of how like obtuse the solution is. It was just like straight up kind of, you know,
just like a solid
yeah,
puzzle design.
Yeah, focus in and kind of figure out like through experimentation and yeah, to figure out how to figure out exactly the correct sequence of how to do things, because there's like objects that you have to move around and change color and reposition, but you have to make sure like one color doesn't move one object out of place when it needs to be in a specific place. And so there's definitely a lot of creative space there to work with, but I think
just uneven puzzle design, it
yeah,
sounds like maybe.
So where would I put it? I think I'd also wait for reviews on this one.
Yeah. All right, now I get to try to explain Creepy Redneck Dinosaur Mansion 3.
Is this the fake sequel?
This is the... Yes and no.
Oh, okay.
So this is a strange scaffold game.
Mm-hmm.
This is an extremely strange scaffold game.
Okay.
Okay, so here's what happens in Creepy Redneck Dinosaur Mansion 3. You play as some sort of special agent who's going to a creepy mansion because there's been rumors of something weird going on. There's a locked gate. You have to scale the gate, which reveals the game's main gameplay mechanic. It's a match 3 game.
Okay.
Like, I guess Bejeweled or Honey Pop.
Yeah.
Cuny Pop. And once you get into the mansion itself, you meet your first dinosaur, and that's also a match 3 for dinosaur combat.
Okay.
Anything you do in the game is a match 3. But also, your main character keeps talking about how everything that's happening to him is very similar to things that happened to this other character several years ago.
Oh, okay.
And you realize at this point that those events must have been the events of Creepy Redneck Dinosaur Mansion 1 and maybe 2.
Oh, okay.
And this is confirmed later when you find a bar in the mansion with the main villain of the game who informs you that you are in a video game, Creepy Redneck Dinosaur Mansion 3.
Oh my gosh,
you are
you're
actually
meta.
It is very meta, and it's going to get more.
Okay.
You are in the demo for Creepy Redneck Dinosaur Mansion 3, and it's buggy.
Oh,
so
dear.
He asks you to go and find the bugs to help the developers out. He has also completely checked out of being the main villain of the video game. He's just tending bar and talking to you essentially. So, you leave the bar, and up until now, you've basically been moving between nodes on a line for each like match 3 section and like dialogue section. But now the map kind of opens up, and there's branching paths.
Ooh.
And you start, your character, whose name is JJ, I think, starts getting skill upgrades depending on like choices he makes, or like successfully finishing a match 3 section. And if you have enough skill, that'll like unlock new options for branches in the big map. So there's Xalavier Nelson has called it a Metroidvania, so where you like get new abilities to open up new parts of the map. So then, after you find enough bugs, you do find some bugs moving around the map, it unlocks one final section. You go into a kitchen, you have to feed a zombie T-Rex.
Okay.
Then after you do that, you meet the Mothman, who shows you the game's final cutscene, which is just an animatic, because then the Mothman reveals that Creepy Redneck Dinosaur Mansion 3 has been canceled.
Oh.
So that's why it's still buggy and like nothing is really going on with it. your game has been canceled and you're just kind of left in whatever is left behind.
Oh dear, that's unfortunate.
And that's where the demo ends.
All right then.
And then there's like Nelson has talked about it in the game's store description, kind of talks about it. The idea behind this game is, of course, very meta, but it's also about exploring what happens when like a passion project and something you've been working on very hard just falls apart and you're not able to finish it, which is, I think, a really interesting concept to explore. And they do a very good job with the story writing. I'm not very good at match 3 games, but nothing in here was like especially hard. All the encounters were generally pretty fun. They mix it up from encounter to encounter to keep things fresh.
That's good.
I really like this. I enjoyed this a lot.
Okay.
It made me like, I'm not good at match 3 games, but I would like to maybe get better at them just so I can see everything this has to offer.
Okay.
I don't know if it's a stream game, just because I don't know if streaming match 3 games would be super interesting, but it's definitely on the wish list.
Yeah, Strange Scaffold just has kind of earned its place as being interesting enough to be stream worthy. So
and the dialogue and story seems fun enough too.
Yeah.
This was one of my favorite demos this time.
Awesome. All right.
And also one of my favorite demos is Deliver at All Costs.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, I think I saw the trailer for this one, but I didn't end up playing it.
Yeah. Very Disco Elysium inspired art style. It's an isometric driving game.
Yeah.
You play a former rocket scientist, physicist designer, who's apparently been fired, thrown out of academia, possibly because he has serious anger issues. So he's on in a city on this island somewhere, just looking for work. He gets a job as a courier, and he has to just drive over the island, making deliveries. So driving is most of what you're doing. The mechanics are it's one of those things where they're good enough to function, but bad enough to be funny and sort of challenging.
Good.
Because most of what you're delivering is going to be very silly. The highlight of the demo for me was the third mission you get. There's this nerdy guy who is in love with the daughter of a fisherman, but her father won't let them be wed unless he proves himself to be an excellent fisherman. So the nerdy guy pays someone to catch him a prize marlin, and you have to help him deliver the marlin to the fisherman. First, you have to get the marlin painted white, because it also has to be a very rare white marlin. And while this is all happening, the marlin is also alive and thrashing about in the back of your truck.
Okay.
And it's also very hungry. So if you don't keep the marlin fed by driving over barrels of rotting herring, it's going to get upset and thrash around your car until it explodes.
Oh dear.
But yeah, almost all the missions are something like that.
Nice.
The second mission is you having to launder some counterfeit melons into seeming like they're fresh melons to fool a lady at a grocery store.
Okay.
It's a very silly game, plot wise, very funny. It looks great. It's really fun to just drive around and smash into stuff. I didn't have time to do any of the side stories in there, but they do seem to be there. There's a story I ran into that I couldn't finish where the mayor's body double, who he pays to sit in boring meetings for him, has run off, so you have to go track him down. But it's really fun. It's very entertaining.
Yeah, it seems very irreverent.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I think this is definitely something I would enjoy streaming as well.
Great.
Do you want to take over for Demon Time?
Yes, we both played this one.
Yes.
But since John's been speaking a lot more than I have so far, so this is one of many 3D platformers I tried.
Yeah, I tried quite a few myself as well.
But this is also, I didn't realize, because the title doesn't make it clear, this is also apparently a sequel to an earlier game. I think it was also a 3D platformer, but that first game used 2D sprites in a 3D space. I watched the trailer for it and it seemed interesting and charming enough. But this one actually uses full 3D models, and it, from what I could gather from the demo, you're some demon queen.
Yes.
That's on a quest to sort of meet and parlay with some other demon monarch out in the ocean somewhere. But your ship crashes, and you have to like repair it, and then the game sort of opens up, and it's almost kind of interesting Wind Waker style open ocean that you don't sail across, because there is a boat, your main means of going across the ocean is just turning into a snake.
Yeah, I think it was a snake.
Yeah, so like the main conceit of like your 3D platforming moves is that you turn into like different monsters. So like your double jump is you turning into a bat and stuff. Very cute, very charming. All the characters seem really fun. I did maybe it's because I'm not as adept at 3D platformers. I did find the moveset to be a bit intimidating. It was a little, it was pretty fleshed out, and there were times where there was a certain sort of combo of moves I had to do to get to like to achieve certain like tasks that I found kind of difficult, but maybe to like a more seasoned like 3D platformer, it wouldn't be as much of an issue.
And I will say, as someone who's been playing a lot of Astrobot recently, I didn't like run into anything that I found like super troublesome. So, but yeah, it is like a complex moveset.
Yeah.
You know? Especially like the order in which you like chain moves together, like changes how they function. Like, so you can't like a double jump and then a dash is different than a jump dash jump, that sort of thing. Yeah. So there is like a lot of complexity, and since it does have like a focus on like speed running, I'm really curious to see what like people who get really good at this game can do with it.
It almost kind of felt in a way like a fighting game moveset.
Yeah.
In that way that you explained, that like even like move combinations are like wildly different based on how you sequence them.
Yeah.
So, but while difficult, it was also like really fascinating. So like, because fighting games are also a thing I don't really play a lot, so that's probably like a game systems phenomenon that I just haven't really had much time to interface with. But I thought it was really cool. For me, I would put it on the wish list.
Okay.
It was one of the better 3D platformers I played. It's not my favorite, but it was definitely up there.
Okay. Yeah, I think I would agree with pretty much everything there. I'll put it on the wish list. I will say the story was a bit like meme heavy.
Oh,
not necessarily heavy, but like it knows it's being annoying with it, but still the word skibbity was in this.
Yes, yes. I completely forgot to mention there is a huge content warning. There is a non-zero amount of Zoomer slang in this game.
But it feels like, it felt to me at least like it was doing it on purpose to annoy you. Okay. Let me talk about Do No Harm. This game like came out like right after Next Fest ended. Do No Harm is a Lovecraftian doctor simulator. Attaching simulator to that doesn't feel appropriate. Lovecraftian doctor game. You're like a doctor, maybe kind of shady because you can't find work, but you see an ad to be a doctor on like a small island in like the northeastern United States with a bunch of like creepy, isolated, maritime people. Maybe they follow a strange religion. But the previous doctor has disappeared mysteriously, but he has left his kit. So he has medicines related to, what is it? It's blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. The four humors and like
very pleasant
old washed up medicine. So people show up, they describe like what's wrong with them, and you have to like go through a book, figure out what kind of medicine to give them and how much. And then like on the second day forward, they also get physical symptoms, which maybe alter like how much you have to give them. And like some people might have allergies, or some medicines like might not work on like people of certain ages or gender combinations. And also like weird stuff starts happening. Like maybe you see some stuff that like terrifies your mind. So if your sanity starts getting weird places, you can drink laudanum.
Good.
To calm yourself down. I thought this was pretty solid. It actually reminded me a lot of like Papers, Please, maybe. Where you're on like a time limit. You have to like figure out what you're supposed to do with someone.
Mm-hmm.
I will say in the demo, I like got into a section where I was kind of stuck, and I was just like waiting for the fail state to trigger.
Oh,
And then like the day ended, so I would have had to like start a new day and like wait for that fail state to trigger.
Oh,
So that's where I
jeez.
just kind of called it on the demo.
yeah.
I think it's like pretty good, but it's not like usually the kind of game I would play myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it also like it doesn't really do anything new with like Lovecraft.
Yeah.
Like everything here like feels like I've seen before. This is for me like something I think I'd put in like the watch someone else play,
Okay.
because like I think it's like like it feels like a pretty strong game, but like I don't know, not for me, but I feel like this is like a stronger. I am kind of curious as to where like all the
Yeah.
systems go and how they interact.
Definitely.
So I definitely didn't see like everything they intend to pile on to what you have to do. There's
Mhm.
also like a weird totem you interact with at
Oh,
some point.
okay.
I wasn't quite sure how that worked.
I need to get some water.
Sure.
Okay. So this next game is mine.
Yes.
This is Dream Spring.
Dream
So like the
Spring.
next fest before this one, I played a lot of sort of first-person Souls-like games.
Yeah.
My favorite game of that next fest was one of those.
Yeah, I immediately played the demo after you talked about that one, and that game does rule. I hope that comes out soon.
Yeah, more to. So I figured I'd check at least one out this time around, and this is Dream Spring. And the way I sort of evaluated this game was immediately against the ones I played through
Mhm.
last Next Fest, and I think it stands up pretty well. I definitely wouldn't put it on like Morta levels because it wasn't quite perfect. Okay, let me look at my notes. Well, one thing I did appreciate is the combat felt a little more kind of solid and polished than a lot of the ones I tried. Like a few of the ones I tried last Next Fest, they didn't seem to either have how they wanted you to reconcile enemy attacks, or they weren't clear about how they wanted you to do that. But the combat in this one is like fast enough where you can just like sidestep or like move away from attacks on your own. There's not like a dodge button that you need to rely on or anything like that, but there is a button to dash forward, so there is a bit of like movement tech that you can use at your disposal. Yeah, and every enemy had like a unique moveset that was readable and straightforward to react to, which I appreciated. Well, that's one thing I always appreciate about good games. It's like good enemy designs that are able to like telegraph what they plan to do without it being like too obvious or easy, but that's still like clear.
Yeah.
About what they're doing about how the game expects you to react to it. So like, for example, the first enemies you come across are just like skeletons with swords, or obviously you're just going to walk up to you and slash at you, but then there's like skeleton wizards that'll stand back and shoot fireballs at you, so you know how to you sidestep the fireballs. And then then there's this like sort of like beholder style floating eyeballs that will shoot like a laser beam in like 3 directions, so you have to kind of predict when they're going to use that move and sort of what orientation they are when using that move, so you know which direction those beams are going to come out of. But it was pretty fun. It is a Souls-like game, so there are quote-unquote bonfires, but I did find, I think I only really came across one of them. I either couldn't find them or they were really, really sparse. So dying was a little annoying when that happened. But it was still intriguing. I did get lost a few times. I'm not... There are a lot of sections that were just kind of sparse with both enemies and resources. I almost wondered if I was like going off a part of the map that I wasn't supposed to. But so it did feel a little kind of empty at times, but maybe that's just like the intended scale of the levels that they're making. Let me see here. Yeah, your levels got kind of long and repetitive, but it was still pretty fun. Let me see. I think maybe waiting for a sale for that for me. But it was neat. Oh, and I did mention this. The aesthetic. So one of the things that makes it stand out is that it's very much a Souls-like game in terms of like its story and its like content and its gameplay, but its art style is like synthwave.
Oh, that's interesting.
So it's kind of like an 80s metal album in a way.
That's
in that
cool.
way. So
that feels like a good aesthetic for that style of game that hasn't. I don't know if it's really been used before.
Yeah, but it's pretty neat. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll wait for a sale, see what it's like.
Sure. And hey, there's a new Duck Detective game.
Yeah,
coming
we still
out.
need to play the first.
We still do. This is more Duck Detective. It seems pretty fun. I think this one has like a much more interesting presence going. Interesting like cloak going in, I guess I'd say. You're at like a haunted campground next to an abandoned insane asylum.
Ooh.
For the, I guess, the meat of this game, or at least it looks like that's how it's going to be. Also, Duck Detective has a sidekick. It's one of the characters from the first game.
Okay.
It's like the little alligator dude who I enjoyed his presence in the demo. But yeah, still need to play the first Duck Detective, but assuming I enjoy that one well enough, I think I'll definitely pick this one up. Probably.
How much of the first Duck Detective were you spoiled on from playing this demo?
Well, I know the little alligator probably, or maybe he was the villain, because like the case is just about missing sausages, if I remember right.
Yeah.
So he's back, and he's your roommate now.
Okay, good. They hashed it out.
Also, he has a girlfriend, and Duck Detective is still single and moping about his ex-wife. I played 2 games about detectives moping about their exes. This is like the second of my like cozy Golden Idol style games I played. And I think this one was my favorite.
Okay.
Still, just because Duck Detective is just inherently charming.
Yes.
You also find out the Duck Detective's real name, but I've forgotten it already.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I don't really have much more to say. We need to play Duck Detective eventually, so
we will
can get around to this one.
Is his real name Dex Duck Detective?
I wish. What is the actual name for this? Duck Detective: The Ghost of Glamping.
That's right.
That's right. Because it's not camping; it's glamping.
Glamping. Because they have like an espresso machine.
Yeah,
or something.
that sort of thing. All right, do you want to talk about Dungeons and Drivers?
Yes, Dungeons and Drivers. So this is a sort of Vampire Survivors style game. Ever since I've been on the Holocure kick, I've been interested in checking out sort of games of that style.
I believe people have taken to calling them bullet heavens because they're like the opposite of a bullet hell.
Yes.
Because you're the one shooting out all the projectiles.
That's interesting. I like that. But I, in fact, now that you mention it, I think that was like one of the bullet points on the Steam Steam page is Bullet Heaven. But yeah, so this is like Vampire Survivors, but with cars.
Okay.
So and it specifically it feels kind of Warcraft in terms of both of its aesthetic and its systems. There's like talent trees and different classes and stuff. I was only able to play the warrior car starting out. I don't know if you could actually unlock the other ones in the demo. I didn't play the demo enough to find out. Yeah, you drive around and you fight enemies. So like at least the warrior car has like a point blank slam attack that spreads out like radially from it. It does the attack, and that has like a cooldown that can be modified based on like what kind of upgrades you choose. And then you and then in addition to that, of course, the second attack it has at its disposal, being a car, you can just run over enemies as well.
Yeah. I'm curious to see like. Because like usually in these style of games, you really have to avoid enemies.
Yes,
so.
Yeah. I couldn't tell if like running into enemies also damaged you or not. because spoiler alert, I was never able to finish a section.
Okay.
The difficulty did ramp up pretty high once the enemy like density and scaling got to a point where I could not just drive around all of them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's got some interesting stuff going on. The map very much feels like a Warcraft 3 map.
Okay.
In terms of like what it looks like and sort of the perspective that you're seeing it through. And there's like dungeons that you can go into, and you like fulfill an objective in there, and you get like an extra upgrade that you can
That's
choose.
like an interesting twist on this genre.
But but yeah, you drive around and kill monsters. But like I said, I didn't get far enough. I was able to unlock a few upgrades, but I think the talent tree might have been bugged, because I went to the talent tree, I unlocked an upgrade, but it didn't unlock like subsequent upgrades. But then I could spend another talent point on the upgrade I just unlocked, but it didn't show it as like. So like there's some WoW talents where you can like select one multiple times, and there's like certain levels, like 1 out of 5, 2 out of 5.
Yeah.
Once you unlock all of those, it unlocks the next talent. There's nothing indicating that, but you can still dump points into it. I don't know if it actually did anything.
Yeah.
So I assume that was
that
like
sounds
a bug.
like maybe like a bug or some sort of UI issue.
But I'm really interested to see how like the other car classes play. But it took a long time to unlock the talents that I did, and so once I saw that how easily I wasted those talents, I couldn't bring myself to play the game enough to see if those other classes were even unlockable.
Yeah, there were a few like demos I kind of just stopped after I ran into bugs. So I was like, oh wait, this is more polished.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those. But I dig the concept. It seems fun enough. Probably wait for a sale.
Okay.
For me. For that. All right. Okay.
An elaborate history of chess.
Yes. This is one thing I'll say about my experience with this Next Fest. The previous Next Fest, there were a lot more games that just straight up disappointed me that I thought were just straight up bad.
Okay.
There weren't really any games like that, but this is probably the closest one.
Okay.
And it wasn't really even that it was bad. It was just not what I was expecting it to be. I thought it was going to be just like some like fun, semi-educational puzzle game that taught you about the history of chess, but it ended up being almost like what's it called, like a city builder?
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, you like spawn units, in this case like chess pieces, and they have like different functions that they perform. So like pawns will like plant and farm like different seeds and stuff, and then bishops will empower pawns, making their farming more efficient, and then like knights will like fight monsters.
Okay,
but
so yeah, it's sort of just like a chess themed city.
Yes, exactly. But all the pieces can fight monsters, but I guess knights are like better at it because they can move much more frequently. And then individual pieces also level up, so you kind of have to micromanage that. And then oddly enough, much like Dungeons and Drivers, there's also dungeons that you can go into and navigate that kind of pause the overall game, so to let you just spend time in the dungeon. And at least inside the dungeon, there are a few sections with what I was originally expecting, which were like chess-themed puzzles. Like it'll give you like a chessboard with like pieces laid out, and you have to like checkmate in a certain amount of moves. So that was pretty neat, but the city building, that's just not the kind of game I'm really interested in. Like, I'm also just not very good at, so definitely a not for me.
Okay. That seems fair. All right. I've got Elroy and the Aliens. This was one of a few point-and-click adventures I played. And I was actually kind of, I would say, pleasantly surprised by this. Going in, I expected something like kind of like more acerbic and like over like comedic, like maybe in like a sort of mean way. Like I've kind of been like one of my worst experiences with adventure games was Deponia like several years ago. I just really did not vibe with that game, and I was like kind of worried looking at this art style that it was going to be kind of similar to that, but it's actually like I would say fairly earnest, at least what I saw from the demo. The main character is an inventor who's trying to like develop a rocket. My second like rocket physicist character of the game. And he invites a journalist to come to his apartment because he's gonna launch a rocket from his roof. But the journalist woman, who you can kind of see down there, is really only interested in talking to him about his father, who I guess was like a famous archaeologist who went missing.
He's a rocket scientist who disappeared trying to deliver a fish.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, he was an archaeologist who disappeared mysteriously like several years ago. It's sort of like an ongoing mystery. Eventually, like the rocket launch goes wrong. He has to go solve a few puzzles to get the rocket going again. Then it goes wrong a second time and accidentally blasts a hole in his roof.
Oops!
They find a mysterious box that was left by his father that seems to have some sort of strange technology.
Oh, okay.
And then that's where the demo ends.
This was fun.
It was fun. It's a very, I would say, solid adventure game. I like the tone. I thought the characters were good.
Yeah, this definitely sounds like the synopsis of like an old LucasArts
Yeah,
game.
it feels very much like one of those old LucasArts games.
Okay.
Like closer to like Monkey Island, you know.
Okay,
sort of
yeah.
Not quite as like goofy, but still like I would say in that zone. There's definitely a little bit of Guybrush energy in Elroy.
Okay.
Like I'm not sure that I would rank this like super high on the list, but I did enjoy what I saw here. I think I'd put it like on the wish list,
Cool.
maybe like near the lower end of rankings on that, especially because there's like another point and click adventure game that I really enjoyed that
Awesome.
gotta have it above it.
Okay.
But I did like it quite a bit. I'll definitely keep an eye on it.
Awesome. Okay. This is Gear Grit. This is another 3D platformer I played. So much in the way that Demon Tides is inspired by other 3D platformers with like very complex and skill forward movesets, kind of like a Hat in Time.
Mm-hmm.
No way. Apparently, Gear Grit is inspired by Jak and Daxter, that sort of era of 3D platformers. Let's see here. Yes. So that's pretty interesting. I dig the character design. It looks fun and charming. There wasn't really much in the way of like both writing and direction and telegraphing. There was a bit of a tutorial. It sets you in this sort of like district of this kind of cartoony town, and you have an objective to go into the factory and like fuck shit up in there, because they're like making weapons or something. But beyond that, there's the sort of direction and tutorializing is pretty sparse, and apparently looking at like the Steam community discussions, that's one criticism people seem to levy, but the developer also seems to kind of like defend that they consider it like as a sort of touchstone of like Jak and Daxter style games, which I've never played Jak and Daxter, so I can't say that they say that part of the appeal of those games is kind of figuring things out yourself.
Okay.
Though that sort of conceit kind of comes to a head with the boss fight at the end of the demo that takes place in the factory, because I definitely got just straight up stuck. Mm-hmm. So there's like two phases. Once the phase transitions, you kind of just have to sort of figure out what you need to do to actually damage the boss again. And I had to just I stopped and looked at community discussions, see what other people were saying. I could not find the solution there. I just kind of started just poking around, and I had to interact with a specific object in a certain way that I had not really considered. So I'll just say, like, there's an object in the boss arena that is a bomb. It's an explosive, but it's not. It doesn't look like one. It's like a little like lawn flamingo.
Mm-hmm.
But there's nothing in the game that ever indicates that those blow up. But,
okay.
But they're like they're in the level. I guess at some point maybe if there's a situation where you have no other choice but to interact with them and see that they blow up, that would be kind of established in the back of your mind that, like, maybe if you see that in the boss arena, you maybe utilize the fact that it's an explosive to help you in the fight. But but there was never a situation during the demo, because of how kind of open-ended it was, that gave me that intel. So
it sounds like a lot of people have that problem too.
But the platforming was solid enough. But again, it starts you out in the middle of this kind of like district of a city, and you have to kind of figure out how to actually get into like the intended like secret entrance to this factory. And it took me quite a long time, because there's like different sort of buildings that you can platform onto, and there's like different ways to like jump from building to building, but some led to like different collectibles that had nothing to do with like where you were supposed to go, and some were just like straight up dead ends. So it got, I wouldn't say it got to the point where it was frustrating, but it was like a little annoying. Like in the back of my head, I was like, I've been spending a lot of time here. So I do think there is a difference between like I don't know if I'd even call it tutorializing, but like telegraphing what the game expects you to do. Like, I think there's a difference between a complete lack of that and just like subtle like telegraphing. And I think that's probably what this developer's thinking when they think of like really like classic, well-known 3D platformers, like they're able to kind of communicate what they expect you to do as a player without just like putting words on the screen or like inputs on the screen, like a God of War QTE or something. But I think it could stand to maybe re-examine that a little bit.
I think I noticed this in one demo play. I think like there's some like indie developers out there who are not great at listening to feedback.
So this one, probably waiting for reviews again.
Okay.
I do feel like there's definitely potential there, but it's just going to depend on whether it's able to harness it or not.
Yeah. Okay. I'll talk about Ghost Hand. One of a few Metroidvanias I played. You know, first was Beyond the Ice Files 2.
Okay.
The developer for Ghost Hand has a lot of ideas, and they want to put all of them in this game. So right. I called it a Metroidvania, but the other game they list as a prime inspiration is Drakengard, which you can see immediately because the game starts out with you flying around on a dragon in like a 3D space. And you have to like shoot like things that are chasing you and also targets on this large airship. And then once you've shot all the targets on the airship you need to take out, you land on the airship, and that's when it becomes a 2D side-scroller. Metroidvania. Do a little bit of platforming, and you fight a big robot boss with like a kind of Nazi-looking lady piloting it. But, you know, like fantasy Nazi.
Yes.
You know, just like...
very fascistic.
Yeah, fascistic sort of uniforms, that sort of thing. The developer also describes it as like sort of Soviet inspired, which I can kind of see in like the mech design. But it makes a very good first impression. Like everything up through the boss fight I just desired, and the boss fight itself, very strong. Liked it a lot. After that, the story like rewinds in sort of a flashback to show you how you got your Ghost Hand powers, because the Ghost Hand is like how you interact with a lot of stuff and also like beat people up. And that's much more just platforming and like sort of kind of puzzle platforming. And that section was a lot less fun, unfortunately. Like I think like the controls just aren't quite there yet for like some of the platforming challenges it asks you to do. Like I moved through it for a while, and then eventually I got to a wall climbing section that just felt like not necessarily too hard, but too finicky. Like there's a wall that like sometimes there's harmful stuff on it, sometimes there's not, so you have to time a wall jump on it.
Okay.
But like it felt like every time I would jump off the wall, my character would do a different thing, and I couldn't figure out consistently what I was like like how to make my movement more consistent.
Yeah.
And at that point I just kind of like called it. Like there's a lot here to like really like I love the dragon stuff that you only get a glimpse at right at the beginning. When you're actually fighting the boss, it feels very good. Some of the movement stuff is fun. Some of it like needs polish.
Yeah.
Also,
especially if there's like challenges that are based on timing, you need to make sure your movement, the way you navigate, is really consistent.
Yeah, and even then, it felt like I'd been playing for like maybe 40 minutes to like an hour at that point, and it still felt like I was even kind of like in the tutorial section a bit for movement. And like it was just it felt like a weird ask with like the tools they've given you.
Yeah.
Also, like for that section, it takes away your attack. Like you don't have a basic attack, and there are like enemies around.
Oh, okay.
But you're supposed to like, instead of like just punching them, you have to like grab them and just like throw them at the ground or at rocks.
Oh, okay.
To like kill them, which
interesting.
Just felt awkward to use, especially because like I had just been punching stuff like not like 20 minutes previous. It's just like a weird pacing decision. Like game makes a great first impression and a much less great like second, third impression.
Kind of forcing you into like environmentally fighting enemies.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That said, it's still like it looks like it's pretty early in development. Like they're gonna launch a Kickstarter sometime soon.
Oh, okay.
So like it's something like I'll probably keep an eye on, but I'm not quite sold yet. So I'll put waiting for reviews.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right.
This is one I was interested in, but I didn't get around to playing it. So you want to tell me about the Gothic 1 remake?
I checked it out. I never played the first Gothic. I watched a few people play it. It seemed interesting enough. Mm-hmm. And this is apparently just like a full-on complete remake of it. Let's see. It looked very pretty. I was really impressed with how nice it looked. I wouldn't say it looks like a AAA game, but it looked like as nice of a game as you could make an indie game look.
Okay. Yeah,
I was really impressed with it.
I think I get what you're saying.
From what I understand of Gothic's story, you play a person that's been transferred into a prison colony that that takes place in like an area that's encompassed with a magic barrier, and that's how like. And that's how they keep the inmates in. But the prison colony has been overthrown by the prisoners.
Yeah, that's sort of like the big hook of Gothic. I remember hearing about it, and you have to kind of negotiate with the various factions inside the barrier.
There's three different factions, and you're introduced to two of them in the demo. Yeah, you wake up in a camp of the main faction. But this main faction, since you're not officially a member of them, you're not allowed to camp with them at night. So you're kind of kicked out, and you have to find somewhere else to camp. And you end up meeting the one of the other two factions and doing a bit of a quest for them to camp with them for the night. But the big thing about this is it's sort of a classic kind of fantasy action RPG where there's like experience that you level up, and then there's like resource and inventory management, and there's combat, and the combat is pretty difficult, at least difficult for me. There's several times where I just straight up died fighting just the lowliest of mole rats, but it got to a point where I was a bit frustrated with it because the combat cadence seemed like I was just supposed to like be continuously fighting bad guys, despite the fact that like 3 hits from like a mole rat would kill me.
Yeah.
But then I learned that you can cook monster meat and eat it, and while it does not, unlike a healing potion that heals you immediately, it does heal you over time. So I finally figured out that basically you just kill like 1 or 2 monsters at a time, then you heal, and then that it's a much more slower and deliberate combat cadence.
Okay.
Though I guess I would kind of almost say like Dark Souls, but the combat didn't feel quite as polished as Dark Souls. It felt more like, gosh, I'm trying to think of another example. I would say The Witcher, but I've never actually played The Witcher. I've only watched other people play it. But like a Witcher, like
one of those like earlier Witcher games.
One of the more action-y Dragon Ages.
Okay.
I know the first Dragon Age is like turn-based, but
yeah.
I think the second one's a little more action.
Yeah.
Or maybe like Kingdoms of Amalur, that sort of thing.
Okay, yeah. I think I get the idea here.
But but yeah. Eventually so one of the guys from this other faction gives me a quest to go find another one of his guys that kind of got lost, and I fight a few mole rats, and then I find like it's like a goblin or something. I kill him, and then I run into the guy's corpse.
Oh.
And he had like taken some like drugs, some like hallucinogenic drugs from the third faction of people that are part of some like dark god worshipping cult, and they like take drugs in order to like speak with him or something. So that's how you're kind of introduced to the third and final faction, and so you bring the bad news back to the first guy, and it's like, shucks. And so and then you camp with him for the night, and that's the end of the demo.
Okay.
But I thought it was pretty interesting. I'd say I'd maybe put it on the wish list.
Okay.
It was interesting enough that I might check it out.
Yeah.
When it comes out.
I know Gothic has like one of those cult followings.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see how people react to this.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It definitely left a good enough first impression.
All right. Now this next one we both played.
Yes.
We Haste Broken Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
It's another, I guess you'd say a 3D platformer.
Yeah,
but kind of also like
thing I can think of.
Sort of an endless runner, though I guess not really endless, but like an auto runner. Like I've heard a lot of people compare it to like the boost sections in the recent Sonic games, where like he's just running forward automatically and just kind of steer him.
Yeah. Speaking of Sonic games, the big thing it made me think of, I don't remember when this was, but someone like posted like a proof of concept of like an alternate way to make a 3D Sonic game.
Oh yeah,
and it felt a lot like this.
So much about this is just like building and maintaining momentum and like dodging stuff. So like your character, I guess you're not like automatically running forward because you can modulate your speed and like I slow down to avoid stuff. But yeah, a lot of it is like you go up ramps and you want to like time your descent so you land on the downslope of the ensuing hills. So like, you build up speed because you're trying to stay in front of like an encroaching like death barrier.
Yeah, some like phenomenon that's like
erasing
the terrain behind you.
Yeah, I forget most of the story. This was one of the first things I played, but it felt like there was just kind of a sketch of the story there anyway. Also, like it has like roguelike mechanics, like in between sections where you're running, you'll meet like vendors where you can spend the currency, the rings you collect,
and there's like paths that you can branch off.
There's like harder sections you can go through.
Yeah, there's like I was gonna say boss sections, but there's not really a boss until the very end of the demo.
There's a boss at the end.
Yeah.
See, I only finished one run and beat the boss.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I felt like a pretty decent look at that.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the just the way it felt just running around. I will say I think this game is really going to live and die on like how like different they can make like a different
Yeah.
run through the game. I'm a little like concerned isn't like the right word, but I would say curious to like how different like they
Yeah.
make like different trips through it, because I didn't really get a feel for that. Maybe if I played more.
That was definitely one of my first thoughts, is like, how are they going to mix up the sort of terrain that you navigate?
Yeah.
Because we got the green hill zone
Yeah.
basically, but I'm interested to see how they're able to mix things up both like visually and mechanically.
Yeah, like
without running into the problem that Sonic games run into, where your momentum just stops completely and it becomes precision platforming.
because that would, I think, really spoil the mood.
Definitely.
And I'm wondering like what like tool sets they're gonna give you to work with, because like I remember like the one run I cleared was like I got the ability that let you kind of like slow down time in midair, and that really like made like the difficult sections much easier.
I don't know if I ever got like a bullet time one. The big one that I got was sort of like a like a get out of jail free card in terms of like bad landings.
Okay.
It would change a bad landing into a good one.
Oh, that's useful.
And be on like a cooldown or something. That was like the main upgrade I had.
Cool. I will say I thought the boss was pretty well designed.
Yeah,
was pretty fun.
I enjoyed it. It's like a big like spider bot or something that you run into, and then it moves to like another
so you have to dodge the sort of lava pools it leaves on the ground.
But I think the lava pools don't disappear, so you get sort of kind of soft enrages in that way.
Yeah, so you can't just dawdle, which is a I think an interesting like twist on like, instead of having the death wall, they have another like time limiter.
Yeah.
But yeah. So where would you feel about ranking? Like, I thought there's definitely a lot of quality on display, but maybe I have some stuff to look out for.
Yeah. Maybe either on the wish list or waiting for a sale.
Okay. I think I'll choose to be more positive. Okay. Why not?
Sure.
All right. Next up, gotta check my notes for the full title. 100-line Last Defense Academy. I will say right off the bat, I didn't finish this demo, not for like because it angered me or even because I didn't enjoy it, just because I guess the demo is like 4 hours of gameplay, and I didn't want to spend that much time with it. 100-line is the new game from, I forget the game studio, but it's Kotaro Uchikoshi, I think.
Okay.
I might be getting the name wrong because I keep looking it up and forgetting. He's the writer behind the Zero Escape series. And the Somnium Files series.
Oh, okay.
And it also has the writer and the principal artist behind the Danganronpa series.
Oh, wow.
They apparently like I guess joined forces and have their own studio. They did that game from a few years ago that was like Rain something.
Yeah.
The other detective game. So this is a tactical RPG. I was going to say you're a student in Japan. That might not be true. You're a student in a place called Tokyo.
Okay.
That is like under like a giant roof, like several like 100 yards above the ground. So like all the light is like completely artificial. When morning happens, the lights just flip on.
Oh, okay.
So then one day when you're going to class with your childhood friend, who like those two obviously have a crush on each other, all of a sudden monsters appear, and like an adorable mascot, well, not adorable, a parody of adorable mascot characters who's kind of disturbing shows up.
Okay.
Tells you to stab yourself, and when you do, you get a sword and magic powers. Cool. And a tutorial for tactical RPG combat. Then you black out, and you wake up in a school with a bunch of other wacky, crazy high school characters who all went through similar experiences, but who each have their own unique weapons and classes. And he tells you you have like 100 days to defend your academy and wipe out the monsters, or else humanity is going to be wiped out.
Oops.
And all that. So you go day by day, you interact with the other students, you do some tactical RPG stuff, basic stuff. I didn't get deep enough into it to know if there's any big twists in the demo, but I think what's here is probably solid, and I think people who like previous games by these creators will enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
I have like a mixed feeling about the Danganronpa series. I think it's like it's fun. I enjoyed like experiencing the first game as like a let's play on the Something Awful forums, like a lot of people did. I think my big problem with that game, it's not really like even like a problem, it's just not personal taste. Like the characters in those games are just like meat. They're there to be killed in interesting and ironic ways to set up mystery solving and stuff. And I really got that vibe from the big cast of characters you meet once you get to like the central like part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like none of them were like, I care about this person as a person. This character is here to take part in battles for me and then probably die in a goofy way.
Yeah.
Like, so this is probably, I would say, either not for me or watch someone else play.
Yeah.
I do like AI, the Somnium Files, and I did like the characters in that game, but this feels much closer to the Danganronpa side of things.
Yeah, I was gonna say which side it feels more because I never played AI, but I watched other people play it, and I loved watching AI, the Somnium Files. So, that's a really fun story.
Yeah, I still need to play the second one because I did love the first one quite a bit. So I think I'd put this in, watch someone else play probably,
right,
see how the story goes. Let's see. One of the like YouTubers I follow who makes videos about Neckfest talked about this next game that you also played.
Oh,
so
did they?
Curious to hear your thoughts on it.
Okay, so this is yet another 3D platformer I played, and it's the second game that takes place in a mysterious megastructure.
Yeah.
But this one's much more sort of grimy and rusty, lots of concrete. I don't know if I'd say like post-apocalyptic, but very sort of it feels like very like abandoned and decayed compared to just like extremely abstract the way Black Shard was.
Okay.
But you play this like little robot, and I like this one a lot because it has a kind of very unique moveset that's kind of fleshed out by that's based on like what your character has, which is this like sort of pole style cane.
Okay.
So it's like a long pole with like a hook at the end, and you have quite a few moves at your disposal based on that. So, for example, like you can like climb up an edge, and you can get, even if you're not able to jump high enough to reach the ledge, you can use your hook to get that last bit of altitude up to latch onto the ledge and climb up there. And then you can also use your cane to pole vault to get like extra distance across gaps, and you can also sort of kind of stand on the pole like a pogo stick to jump in that way. And so that's like a lot of what the your navigation through the space is based off of, and I thought that was really novel. And you know, I'm a big fan of sort of like melancholic settings like this, and so it definitely tickled that part of my brain. Let's see here. Yeah, towards a unique moveset like pole vaulting and pogo sticking. I played all the way to the end of the demo. There wasn't. I don't think there's really much more to say, but I was really intrigued by it. I would probably put it on the wish list.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it looked pretty interesting.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
Okay. So I'll talk about Inkborn a bit. I don't have a lot to say about this one.
Okay.
Right when Nextfest started, like Steam like recommended me a ton of like roguelike deck builders, probably because I've been playing a lot of Balatro lately and a bit of Slay the Spire and Monster Train. So I thought I should at least play a few of these. And Inkborn jumped out with its style and art direction. It's very papercraft, very interesting backgrounds and stuff. Your character and the enemies you fight are both kind of origami-ish. But gameplay-wise, this is this is just Slay the Spire.
Okay.
With like maybe like minor differences. Like the big unique thing is that like you can make combos out of cards like based on sort of like they have like an intrinsic property like attack cards and block cards or status cards. So if you play 3 block cards, you get a block combo. If you play 3 attack cards, you get an attack combo. You also get combos for like 2 block and then an attack, or like maybe a status and then an AoE attack is also a combo.
Okay.
So that's its big unique twist, but I still don't really see why I would play this instead of like Slay the Spire or Slay the Spire 2, which is coming out sometime soon, or like Monster Train 2. Like I like if you ask me to describe the differences between Slay the Spire and Monster Train, I could like they'd be fairly easy. They're very different, even though they're both in the very similar genre. But Inkborn's differences just feel like very slight, and like the unique sort of aesthetics to it just weren't enough to really convince me to like play it over other games I've enjoyed.
It hasn't done enough to really set itself apart, at least in the demo. In
a very saturated market, in the demo. And I will give this to them. They've made it very clear this is just a demo of like the basic combat. So there might be like differences when it gets to the more like roguelite and deck buildery elements. Like since this demo doesn't like showcase very much of the game, and I imagine like maybe they'll have like more classes or characters in the full game to mix things up. But for now, it's just a pass for me. I just don't really see myself playing it or even like really watching anyone play it.
Okay.
And Is This Seat Taken? You play this one as well.
Yep, I think this is another one we both played.
It's a puzzle game where you have to like take little shaped people and seat them in an area so that like each person has like certain rules you can't break. Like they don't want to sit next to someone smelly, or they want to sit by a window. Or
a lot of the mechanics were accommodating people that don't want to be around smelly people.
Yes, because a lot of these shapes did not shower.
No, they did not.
It's cute. I did think it was neat. Like it's a puzzle game that seems to have a bit of a plot to it. The plot seems pretty basic.
Yeah,
but like I thought it was fun enough. It didn't like really jump out and grab me. I wouldn't say like wow, that was impressive, but like it's like fine.
Yeah, I think it did a pretty good job of establishing like what its deal was.
Yeah,
but that deal isn't really all that remarkable. But I think it's interesting enough to set itself apart.
Yeah, this feels like a wait for a sale for me. I think. Like,
I think that's good.
Yeah, it's not like it's cute. I would definitely like pick it up and just like get through the puzzles. I enjoyed the time I spent with it, but I'm not like beating down doors for it like some of the other games.
Okay.
But, the first puzzles I thought were pretty easy. I will say, once you got towards the latter end of the demo, the puzzles were a bit more interesting. Like the first few, it feels like you could just drop those shapes wherever. Pretty much. There's a lot of options. But yeah, I'm curious to see how they ramp it up. In the
me too.
All right, Isle of Reveries. Isle of Reveries is it's basically an old school top down like Zelda style game, like from the like SNES era. Specifically, it's very like Game Boy Color aesthetic. It probably takes inspiration from the two like Zelda games on that system, Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons. Plays a little owl person who's going to the top of a mountain to make a wish, but apparently everyone who makes a wish up there vanishes and is never seen again. It's very ominous. Get to this temple, bad stuff happens, and you have to go through a Zelda-style dungeon. I will say, I think one thing this demo really demonstrated is that it must be very hard to make a Zelda-style dungeon, because the one in this demo just wasn't fun.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, it was this is one of the demos that is just like a big bummer for me.
Ah, shucks.
I just didn't really vibe with it at all.
That's too bad.
it's just like there's such a like I think flow is very important for those dungeons. Like you explore a bit, but eventually the dungeon kind of like pushes you one way. You like unlock something, and that like sort of maybe pushes you back towards the center of the dungeon after that, and you explore what you've now unlocked, and like maybe that pushes you towards the boss of the area eventually with winding about. And like in the one dungeon in Isle of Reverie, it's just like never got that feeling. Like there's like 2 big upgrades you find in the dungeon, but afterwards like I didn't feel like the game was like super great at like pushing me where I'd go next. And like I remember like seeing areas like where I could use the stuff I unlocked. The first ability is like a gauntlet thing where you can pick up heavy items, in this case bomb flowers and like pots.
Oh, okay.
So like I knew I could like go like do some bombable wall stuff and probably unlock some stuff, but like I just didn't really feel like the dungeon like sort of circulated me into that area, if I can explain that.
Yeah.
And the second ability is also like it's such a like it's a neat idea that I don't think the game executes very well. You save a fairy from a monster, and the fairy has an ability where it can like copy an object out in the world, sort of like save it to your inventory, and then you can like place it somewhere like in the dungeon for puzzle solving and stuff.
Okay.
And I think it's a neat idea in theory, but the way the game executes it is like basically you do normal Zelda stuff in a more tedious way.
Okay.
So like instead of you can't carry bomb flowers from room to room. So if you find a bombable wall in a room without a bomb flower, you copy a bomb flower somewhere else and go back to the room.
Okay.
So like, but that's just still just bombing a wall with an additional step.
Exactly.
Basically.
Yeah.
So like if there's parts where you need to like shoot a switch with an arrow, but you don't have a bow or arrow, so you have to go find a statue that shoots those for you, and you drop it there to hit the switch. So it also like it means there's a lot more backtracking through the dungeon to solve puzzles. And
So when I think of like a well-designed Zelda dungeon, or even like Dark Souls follows the same DNA, where there's not so much backtracking, but like parts that just end up like looping or folding in on each other.
It's almost like you're doing laps, sort of.
Yeah,
like each
exactly.
time stuff. And it just didn't really feel like that. It felt like almost like moving through a web, I guess. Like,
I can see what you mean
like,
there.
Sort of bounce around,
going to the Nexus and then out into a different branch and then coming back. Yeah.
So also this was also exacerbated by the dungeon itself's main like conceit, which is one this is directly lifted from some top-down Zelda games. I can't remember which ones. There's like red walls and blue walls in the dungeon. One's always low and one's always high. And there's like switches you can find throughout the dungeon to switch them.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of the puzzle solving is like finding those switches and like trying to figure out a path to where you want to be. You have to get the switch in the right position, then rethink your route. And that was like, I've seen that in other Zelda games, and I've seen it executed better in the Zelda games. It also just like makes the navigation through that dungeon like more annoying, especially because I always wasn't really enjoying it. And I just like also like aesthetically, there's just not a lot of. It's not really an interesting space. It's just a temple.
Yeah.
And the enemies weren't doing anything for me. There's just nothing here that really I felt was special, that really hooked me.
Yeah.
So it's really a pass for me. Like
sure.
There were several I had like 4 passes I think in this list of game, and other than Inkborn, they all kind of broke my heart. So this is one of them.
That's too bad.
I will say I mentioned developers like taking criticism kind of poorly, and I noticed that from this developer.
Oh, that's too bad.
I was kind of browsing their Steam page. One thing I didn't mention, Isle of Reveries has a jump button, which a lot of top-down Zeldas don't.
Yeah.
Like usually you'll get an item that lets you jump eventually, but this one you can jump from the start. The game doesn't tell you that, even though it has like all the other buttons on the screen because you have to like assign items to them.
Yeah.
And so they show you all the buttons except like the jump button, which is I think right bumper, and tell you what to do. So like there are a few people who got stuck on an early puzzle because they didn't know that you could jump in the game. And like,
jeez.
Like the developer was like saying to one of them, "Hey, it's not my fault you can't solve a simple puzzle. Like
Jesus.
just tell people you have a jump button."
Yeah.
You're already like explaining all sorts of other stuff in the game.
Yeah.
That also just, put me in an annoyed mood.
Yeah, definitely.
Made me a little less
definitely
charitable
soured
to the
things
game.
for sure.
This has a Kickstarter going right now, and I hope they make it. I think they deserve to have their game out there. It's just not something I'm gonna ever get around to.
Yeah.
Okay, Isopod.
Yes.
Pillbug.
Yep. Yet another. For some reason, Steam just constantly recommended 3D platformers to me.
Yeah.
But this one, you play a Pillbug, or aka a roly poly.
Mm-hmm.
I remember catching and collecting these a lot as a kid.
I did too.
And they seem to really enjoy coming into the garage and dying, which is really annoying. I haven't cleaned up a Pillbug corpse in quite a while, so I don't know, maybe something's changed.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, this Pillbug doesn't care about going into our garage and dying because he's busy having a magnet and being a cool pro-union guy.
Oh, cool.
Yep, this is yet another game that fits in the secret category of unexpectedly labor-forward politics.
That's interesting.
Yes. So you're this roly-poly bug, and I think you're working for some like ant colony to sort of help build up infrastructure. But some other kind of ant or some other kind of bug that looks like an ant has like kind of muscled their way into the territory and is building some sort of like plumbing system to like dispose of like their toxic waste.
Mm-hmm.
So like the conceit of the demo is you're kind of going around and fighting this other faction and switching off their like machines to stop like waste, their sort of waste disposal from polluting like your space. But like when you're all the like dialogue with NPCs is all talking about like supporting the union and workers. So there's like a side quest you can do. There's like a locked up enemy ant that he talks about. He's trying to get these like water purification machines going, so they don't have to like dispose of like their toxic waste. So you can go and get those machines running for him. He's like, us workers, we gotta stick together. But anyway, the gameplay itself is pretty interesting. The move, unlike like Demon Tides, for example, the move set is much more like simple and straightforward. It's definitely like the floatiest in terms of like platformers, but I think it's kind of aware of that and kind of at least placed like its advantage for that. So you have your basic jump, but I think a lot of your locomotion is through like rolling up into a ball and moving that way. You move much faster in that form, but also you have a magnet, so you can like magnetize yourself to different metal objects, but you can also do that to sort of increase your velocity to increase your speed and use that speed to kind of get up to like higher places using bigger jumps and stuff like that. So I thought that was pretty interesting. It did. I don't know if it felt quite like Sonic, the way that like Haste might have felt.
Okay.
But the gameplay loop felt more like sort of like a more kind of open world collectathon, like Banjo-Kazooie in a way. But it was pretty fun. There's a few enemies you fight. I don't think there's a boss fight at the end, and the combat wasn't really all that sophisticated. I think you just like have a spin attack, and of course you can like roll into enemies and stuff. you have a health bar in the form of like I think it's like leaves, and you have like 3 leaves or something. And if you get hurt, you can go and like eat leaves and
Okay.
restore health that way.
That is how bugs work.
Yes, that is how bugs work. But I thought the platforming was interesting. If you remember, like the It Takes Two level that uses magnets a lot, it felt a lot like that sometimes.
Okay.
But it was interesting enough. I think it utilized the space that it takes place in. It was like, it's weird to describe, but it's like an outdoor space, but like since you're like a bug, everything is like enlarged. So it's like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids in the way. So, but I think it uses that space in clever ways in terms of like gameplay and navigating that space with like your moveset. So it's fun. I don't know if in terms of like the other platformers I played, I would probably maybe wait for a sale on this one.
Okay.
I definitely put it above Gear Grit, but maybe not quite as high as like Hypogea or Demon Tides.
Do you think we could take a short break before I talk about Kathy Rain 2?
That sounds good. All right. Okay.
All right. Up next for me, Kathy Rain 2.
Okay, another sequel.
Yes. I will say, I considered at one point adding a category to the tier list, which was like, this made me want to play a different game. And,
Okay.
and I would have put Kathy Rain 2 in it because the biggest takeaway I have from this demo is that I absolutely have to play Kathy Rain 1 because this is really impressive.
Okay.
I enjoyed
Cool.
this quite a bit. I've heard of Kathy Rain. It's a point-and-click adventure. I think it came out, like, I want to say, like, 2018 or something. It feels like it has a lot of similarities to the Blackwell games. You're an investigator. I think in the first game she might not be a private eye yet, but she is in the second. So in Kathy Rain 2, you're a private investigator. You haven't had a case in a while. You're gonna not be able to pay your rent. It sounds like you just went through a pretty bad breakup. So you decide to try to hunt down a serial killer who's been plaguing your city because there's a reward for providing information. The latest victim of the serial killer, who's called the Soothsayer, was a famous writer in the area.
So Alan Wake?
It was Alan Wake. He's dead. So you go to her cabin, which was the scene of the crime. You have to kind of like break in and then look for evidence. And then that's when the demo ends.
Okay.
But really great character writing, just absolutely gorgeous pixel art. Like,
awesome.
I'm excited for Old Skies, the next Dave Gilbert game. But my one like sad point about that is like he seems to have moved away from pixel art.
Oh yeah.
Which makes me so glad that Kathy Rain 2 has just fantastic pixel art. I really love just looking at it.
I wonder if the studio's done anything else.
They have the first Kathy Rain, and they have one other game that came out in between Kathy Rain 1 and this. I think it's more science fiction-y. But yeah, the puzzle to get into the cabin I thought was really neat too, because it wasn't like inventory item based. It was it was like you just have to gather information, which felt like really appropriate for a detective game. Like, there's like a super fan of the author is like camped out in front of her cabin, like holding a vigil, and he won't let you like try to break into the cabin unless you prove you're like a super fan. So you have to like go to the library or go back to your office to like comb what information you have to find like details about the author who will prove you're a big fan of hers.
Cool.
Which was neat. And then once you're in the cabin, you do more like traditional adventure gamey stuff. You have to like find a piece of evidence the cops missed and dust it for fingerprints and all that. But yeah, I was really impressed with this. I'd heard of Kathy Rain. I was like, oh, I should probably check that out sometime.
Never heard of it.
Now I feel like I absolutely have to check it out.
Awesome.
I'm not sure if this is future stream because I'd want to stream the first one first, but I think probably eventually.
Yeah.
Also, she's just so hard-boiled.
Good.
For like a mid-20s lady. She has a motorcycle and like lots of tequila and oh man.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite games this Next Fest also has games by the same developer that I think I'll probably stream leading up to that game's release as well. So
and next up is another one from me. This is another kind of roguelite one. One thing I've been curious to see is like sort of a city builder or maybe like a Civ style game with roguelike elements. I thought that would be like an interesting twist on the genre. And I was kind of hoping Kaya's Prophecy would be that. It's not quite. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff here that like didn't quite grip me, but I think it's promising. You play as, I guess you don't play as a villager because you can have multiple villagers, but there's like this village was kind of like a Polynesian or maybe like a Southwest Asian kind of theme. You start with like a sort of a general like roguelike deck builder like line. You're a little guy, you like fight monsters, you play cards, but then at the end after a couple fights you find like, I can't remember what it was. It was some kind of object and you accidentally release an evil god who curses your village. So you have to like feed the god an escalating amount of food or you lose. But like instead of like a general like Slay the Spire style thing, which was like what the game opened up with, your little guy like works in a town. You like move your villager card to like different buildings to like produce stuff.
Oh, like worker placement?
Yeah, worker placement.
Okay.
And you can like trash resources to like get a little booster pack that gives you cards. that
Mhm.
could be like plans for a new building or like food or other resources. So you have to kind of like make that choice between, am I going to use this resource in construction, because you can also like combine resources to construct buildings, or am I going to trash it to get a booster pack? So it's an interesting decision to make. I do think this is one of those games that needs to be more clear about what you can do,
Uh-huh.
because like one of the other important things it looks like from what I've seen is like you can go back into the jungle to do like the more traditional like deck builder fighting thing with your villagers,
Uh-huh.
and I couldn't figure out like how to unlock that, so I was like already way behind on like gathering food. And when I finally did it turned out there was a building I need to build first before that.
Okay.
But I only had one villager and he was already pretty banged up, so I got him killed like pretty early on that run, and that's where I ended my run. So I think there's a lot that interests me here, but I kind of want to see what other people do with it first. I think this is in waiting for reviews for me. This also like this is another game I would have like maybe put in the maybe want to play another game category, because apparently from some of the reviews I read it's very similar to a game called Stacklands, which may be closer to that sort of like roguelike city builder itch I was looking to scratch. But still on its own, I think this is a promising game.
Okay.
And I like the sort of Polynesian-esque art. Yeah, it's fun.
So this next game I think we also both played.
Yes, Kajora. An Indonesian.
Yes.
Kind of, what, narrative puzzle game? Maybe describe it as.
Yeah. So you play a child in a little Indonesian village that's experiencing a sort of Groundhog Day style curse, where the day keeps repeating itself. But then kind of later in the demo, you're on the fringes of the village, running into the forest because you're looking for a particular person, and you see like traces of them that lead into the forest, but instead of finding them, you find some kind of shadow beast that you have to
run from
and then hide from. And so I think the demo starts, you play through one day, and then you play through a second day, and that's when you run into the shadow beast.
Yeah, so the first day is sort of like normal day in the village, and then the second day things switch when you have to go look for that guy by the forest, and like there's blood, and all of a sudden a monster.
And sort of the first day is more sort of like table setting with like the characters and the story,
how their abilities work, and
you have a group of 3 kids, and they each have their own abilities that can solve particular problems. Like one of them can like push heavy objects, and the other can like throw objects, and one of them can like climb up ledges and that sort of thing.
One can boost you up ledges too.
God, now that I think about it, almost kind of like Lost Vikings.
Yeah, I was just thinking the way you described it as Lost Vikings. You really only control Kajora, the main kid, and like you tell the other 2 like how to help you out.
Yeah. But it seemed interesting that I found, at least from what bit of the story that they established in the demo, I found it compelling enough.
Yeah, this is one of the games where like I feel like I find the story very compelling. I'm curious to see how like gameplay is carried out throughout the rest of the story. I will say I think that the translation kind of needs a little work. That jumped out at me.
Yeah,
it definitely feels like someone who speaks English but is not a native speaker.
Yeah, that was one of the notes I made, was it very much feels like an ESL, English second language, bubbles up to the surface more than maybe it should or could.
And especially with a game that's going to be this dialogue heavy. I would hope they maybe like get a translator to take a look.
But I do think, just by the nature of it being Indonesian, I think that's interesting, because that is a game development scene I'm really not familiar with, but want to know more about.
I did see on their Steam page they did have, there's like a sort of Ramadan themed Steam festival thing going on right now, so they talked about that, and they had a lot of Indonesian VTubers trying out the demo.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was fun. But yeah, I'm intrigued by this one. I feel like just for like maybe the potential, I would put it on the wish list, but I could also see maybe like waiting for Sailor Wing Freeze.
Yeah. I would put it in that range between.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe like on the upper end of waiting for a sale.
Okay. Yeah, I think that feels fair.
But yeah, I was definitely.
Yeah, I feel like there were demos that blew me away, and there were demos that I would just maybe describe as intriguing, and this is definitely in the intriguing.
Yeah, it definitely hooked me.
Yeah,
I definitely saw the potential there.
Yeah.
Okay, this next one is one I played.
It sounds like there may be a frog involved.
Yes, it is like. Is Caro like a word for frog?
I'm pretty sure Caro is a word for frog.
Okay.
In some language.
So this
Maybe
is
Japanese.
This is probably my favorite of the many 3D platformers I played.
Cool.
If I think you could probably guess by its name what era of 3D platforming that it takes inspiration from. You play a little frog, and what I really liked about this demo is I think it was definitely the most content dense demo I played. There's quite a bit of gameplay there, quite a bit of zones that you could go through, and it's sort of a mix between Mario 64 and a more classic sort of more open collectathon game like Banjo-Kazooie, because there's different zones, and each zone kind of documents like the thing that you're collecting. I think they're like, I forget what it is. I think they're like little like diamonds or something.
Okay.
Instead of like, you know, your stars or your jiggies, there's the main collectible there. But each zone has a certain amount of those diamonds that you can collect, and it like very clearly shows you how many you've collected in like your pause screen or whenever you load into the zone. And there's like hub zones that connect to other different zones, and the moveset, very obviously classic Mario 64 moveset. You have the triple jump that you do if you like, you the double jump if you jump like right after landing, and that will turn into a triple jump if you're able to do that again. It even has like the special jump that you can do if you're moving forward and then swerve back around and then immediately jump. If you remember that from Mario 64.
Yeah, the sort of backwards.
Yeah. And then it has the ground pound jump, just about everything you could think of from Mario 64. But in addition to that, since you're also a frog, you have a long tongue that you can use to latch onto ledges and objects and stuff, and that was pretty fun. But one of the most important things is just the movement and platforming was just very tight, very polished. I really enjoyed that, and I think the level design was really, really good. I don't think anything really that remarkable, but what was there was like really solid and polished, and definitely kind of achieved what it set out to. I will say there's two enemies in the demo. One I think is like a spider, and so you can either jump on it or use like your basic attack. You know, Mario 64 Mario just like has his punch. I think Caro does like a spin or something for his basic attack. But then the second enemy type is like, it's like a seagull that's also like a missile that flies towards you and like blows up. Those got really annoying.
I bet, yeah.
Because oftentimes I would find myself animation locked, like grabbing myself and pulling myself up a ledge, and at that same time one of those seagulls would be diving towards me, and there would be nothing I could do, and it would just hit me. That's like the one problem I had. But other than that, I really enjoyed myself. So like there's in the demo, there's the starting tutorial zone that has like 2 collectibles in there, and then that leads you into a hub world that branches off into 2 larger zones. But one of the zones has a section that's locked until you're able to hit a switch in the other larger zone. And then once you go back to that first larger zone, that is then connected to another larger zone. And each of those zones had like 5 of like the diamonds to collect. So I was really impressed by how much content
Yeah, that
there was.
sounds like,
And
especially compared to like some of the 3D platformers I played. It
Yeah.
feels very content rich.
so those first two zones were kind of open areas. One was like sort of like a waterfall style area, and the other was more of like a, I'm trying to remember, maybe more like a beach or a forest.
Mhm.
But then the last zone was like a tower, and the tower had like an interesting design conceit. Where, do you remember like the on off switches for Mario Maker?
Mhm.
Like the like based on the state of the switch, it activates like red blocks or blue blocks.
Yeah.
It was basically that, but the blocks were like big enough to like obstruct different avenues through the tower, so you had to kind of navigate the tower in one way based on the blocks that you could interact with, and then you'd run into a switch and they would loop around, you navigated it again but with those different blocks that you had access to.
Okay.
And you would end up having to negotiate different paths through the tower until you finally reach the top for the last collectible. But I thought that was pretty fun and novel.
Yeah.
So it was really fun. I look forward to a lot. I don't know, like, I don't really remember if there even was a story there. I don't really remember much. I don't know if it's like it would make like interesting content, but I definitely think it'll be really fun to play. So it's on my wish list for sure.
Sure. All right. I'll talk about Quarter 1996. I described like Kajor as maybe more intriguing than like something I'm super excited about. Quarter 96 I think is the game that's like the most intriguing I played, just because like I really don't have a handle on what kind of game it's going to be, but I'm kind of into it. So the premise is you're a young woman who's moving out into her own apartment for the first time. It's got kind of a pixel art style. It's first person. Rather than like moving around, you sort of like move between set views, just looking at your different walls. Your first night in your apartment, you're just unpacking stuff. There's no music. There's just the sound of rain. And when you open up your closet to put away some clothes, you find a portal in the back of the closet. If you go through the portal, it leads you into this kind of negative space that leads to another apartment in your building. You can't go in there right away. It makes you wait until the second day. But once you can go in, you go into this other person's apartment. They're not there, but they like have a list of tasks they need to finish. So you can like do those tasks for them to finish and like maybe help them out. And that's about it. It's just the game has such a unique vibe. Like it's almost like so much of it is just an unpacking and moving stuff around your apartment or another person's apartment. Kind of, it's sort of like unpacking in that way. Yeah. But like it's sort of cozy, but it's so like quiet and austere. And how the graphics are, like the developer like described it as like sort of like a game about like loneliness, and like you really get that vibe, like not just like loneliness, but like being alone. Like, there's almost like such a sense of vulnerability to being in that apartment or someone else's apartment, especially because like one of the walls is just like this window that takes up almost all the walls. You just see the rain and darkness, like nothing else.
Interesting.
It's just like I'm really like, it doesn't feel like it would like turn into like a full-on like horror game, but like just that like sense tenseness. Of isolation, it builds a tenseness I felt. But yeah, I'm really curious about where they're going with this.
Interesting way to sort of mix up a traditionally cozy setting and concept.
But yeah,
something more either tense or melancholy.
Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah. I think I would put this on the wish list just because.
Cool.
I'm really. I want to follow this just to see what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay, and then one more. Oh, the next couple are from me. But first, Culebra and the Souls of Limbo. So, in this game, you play as a snake skeleton spirit.
Okay.
Who wakes up in, like, sort of Mexican inspired underworld, like that's Limbo.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't really have any memory or anything, and your character is silent, so you can't really tell what's going on. You sort of just move out, and you meet an old lady who's tied up mysteriously. She says she's just a normal old lady, but there might be something else going on. So you help her out, and she tells you that you are a bright soul, and you have the ability to like help other spirits in Limbo like solve their problems and maybe move on from Limbo into the next stage of the afterlife. So after you get out of sort of the little cavern area you start in, you do that. You meet these two women, a mother and daughter, who run a flower shop, and you just have to kind of like, you interact with them. You sort of figure out like what's holding them back. Because it's Limbo, they're not really aware they're dead or trapped in any way, and this also leads to sort of the big mechanical conceit of the game. At the end of the day, because it's got kind of like a Majora's Mask style day timer.
Oh, okay.
At the end of the day, everyone except Culebra and I think maybe the old lady loses their memories just as like an effect of being in Limbo. But if you like make enough of an impact on someone to like mark their soul, is how it's described, they'll remember that.
Oh, okay.
So like if you make enough progress in their like storyline to advance it, then they remember. And it's sort of like, it's not a point and click adventure, it's like a controller based adventure, I guess I'd describe, because you're still sort of, at times you're like using items to solve puzzles and stuff. It's also got like a Paper Mario kind of style aesthetic. It's very paper crafty.
Cool.
But yeah, I adored everything about this. This was my favorite game from Next Fest. I just fell in love with this almost instantly.
I really enjoyed what you were describing as the concept.
It's like, I feel like it's definitely kind of in that cozy sphere, but it's just like melancholic enough that it doesn't like grate. Like the end of the demo, like the thing it kind of like reminded me most is the end of Dawn Trail from Final Fantasy. Where like all the memories of the people and I forget what the place was called.
Living Memory have
like kind of moved on, and there's like this sad and austere area. Like it's sad, but it's also like kind of hopeful. And, but it's just good. I hadn't heard of this at all before coming in, and I just loved it so much.
Also, it sounds like you're a bestower.
I guess you might be a bestower, kind of helping people move on from Limbo.
Move through the afterlife.
Also, it's the only game where you play as a snake skeleton.
I love the concept as you're describing it, but I'm glad it turned out to be really well.
Also, you have like little bird helpers, and I was watching a developer stream earlier today playing through the demo, and they have an actual bird cam on stream.
Oh, nice.
I hope the actual developer bird shows up at some point. There's a crow that helps you out, and another, like I think a magpie who's just a jerk. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. But yeah, this is definitely something I want to stream.
Awesome.
It's supposed to come out sometime this year, so
okay. I wonder if the demo's still up. I'm gonna bring up the Steam page. Culebra, is that it?
Yes, Culebra. I think the developers are of Dominican origin.
Yeah, there's.
I think it's like maybe a word for
it's playing
snake in the patois there.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. I'll download the demo.
Yeah. I'm excited to finally be able to uninstall a bunch of demos because my.
Oh yeah, I've already uninstalled most of mine. Yeah.
Okay. So one more from me.
Yeah.
This closes out my trio of cozy Case of the Golden Idol style games.
Cool.
This one is like middle of the pack. Not as good as Duck Detective. I would say better than Case of the Worst Day Ever. I guess you don't play it, so you're following a young woman who I think is like going away to college, and like she just kind of like runs into traditional difficulties you run into at that stage of life. Like she screws up an assignment, she has like a falling out with her best friend, just like general stuff is going on, and your mystery solving is just trying to figure out what happens there. It's a little twee, I guess I describe. It's definitely in that cozy sphere. It worked, I think, more for me than Case of the Worst Day Ever did, just because I think the character writing was pretty solid. I think it's it's kind of cute, but I'm still like, I'm not quite sold. I think also like both this and Worst Day Ever don't really do anything new with like games mechanic. Like I think a Duck Detective does, because you also have to like interview people and like observe them and stuff like that. Where this feels like it's just Golden Idol, but
yeah,
cute and nice. So I would probably also put it in waiting for reviews, though
Sure.
higher up than some of the other stuff I've put in waiting for reviews.
Okay, we're back to a game I played finally.
Sorry.
No, that's not your fault.
My K section was just loaded.
Yeah, Lunar Drifter. So this is an arcade shooter.
Okay.
So it basically means you're set in this like just a small arena, basically about the size of like a multiplayer shooter arena, and you just fight waves of constantly spawning enemies, and you're on a timer. And I don't think killing enemies gives you time, but there's like pickups around the arena you can get to extend your timer, and you just have to like rack up as big of a score as you can until either you die or your timer runs out. So
Okay.
And it's I guess it's kind of a hero shooter because there's characters you can pick, except instead of like, you know, classes like in like a Battlefield game, it's waifus.
Oh, of course.
Because they're all anime girls.
Nice.
I forget their names, but the two characters in the demo, the first one, let me see my notes here. The first one, you have a revolver and a submachine gun. And so basically, like, you try and land headshots with the revolver from like mid-range, and then if any enemies close the gap, you just pull out the SMG and dispose of them that way. I couldn't finish a run with that character. The reload of the revolver was took a little too long, and I ended up kind of dying from the time it took to do that. But the second character instead gets a semi-automatic pistol and a sniper rifle, and I was able to just get some good high ground and camp out there and just deal with enemies from a distance. The gameplay was fun enough, but it's not quite what I usually look for in an FPS. I'm usually looking more for sort of like a single player linear campaign based game, where this is very much just like mechanics first. And those mechanics were pretty solid. I don't think I ran into any like annoying like glitches or like design choices, but and you know, there's enough there to kind of be interesting and stand itself out, but I don't see myself like playing it personally.
Okay,
So I'd say maybe not for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
What was in the demo was very sort of brief.
Okay.
So
all right. Well, I'll talk about Moadra. I played a few Metroidvanias this Next Fest, and Moadra was my favorite by a good amount. I mentioned like Beyond the Ice Palace 2 is very like close to the Castlevania end of things. Moadra is extremely Metroid.
Okay.
Like there's a lot of Metroid, like I would say like references, and like just like the way the main character feels to move. It feels very Metroid, opening like gates by shooting them and like charging your gun. So the main character of Moadra is sort of like a predator kind of looking alien.
Oh, okay.
And you start by landing on this sort of like desert style wind blasted planet where apparently a member of your species like royal family has gone missing or something. And you're with like a team of like elite warriors who has to like find and like rescue her or figure out what's happened. So as you get inside the planet, you find like this research facility that's been taken over as like by this sort of like biological like techno like gunk, I guess. It's like corrupted like living things and like taken over the whole facility. You also find the princess you're looking for, who appears to like has either been corrupted by the gunk or is using it for like evil purposes or something. The one boss fight that's in the demo is like a scripted loss to her, and then your character loses her arm and gets it replaced with like one made out of the weird gunk.
Okay.
But I just felt like the setting was like great. It felt like great to just move and shoot stuff.
Okay.
I would have liked to have seen more in the demo. Like I would have liked to have seen an actual boss fight, but I'm like really excited by what's on display here.
Awesome.
It seems really fun, really cool. So
Cool.
I'll put that one on the wish list.
Definitely. All right.
Monaco 2.
Yeah.
Oh, I will say, like, when we tried out the demo for this, we couldn't figure out what the guy with the drone did.
Yeah.
I will say I did go back into the demo and I managed to figure out how he worked. Like, basically, if you like walk up to a locked door or something else to interact with, you can just like leave the drone there and like walk away. So you can like
Oh, okay.
lock stuff for you while you go hide from a guard.
Oh,
that sort
okay.
of thing.
That's nice.
Yeah. It was nice to figure out what his purpose was.
Yeah.
But you know, I didn't play a lot of the first Monaco. I played like a good amount and I enjoyed it. And this does seem like a refined version of that formula.
And expanded as well.
Yeah. I feel like this is definitely something I would love to play in the future if we need more co-op games. How did you feel about Monaco 2?
It was pretty fun. I did find a bit of like the interface stuff a little overwhelming, especially like when you're kind of plotting out like your route.
I felt like it feels like there's tools to like plot your route out, but it did a poor job at showcasing like how to use those tools.
And of course in our stream that we
you were kind of stuck with a character you couldn't figure out how to use.
But we ran into a lot of situations where we would get caught by guards and kind of chaos would kind of spill out from that, which I guess is probably part of the appeal of the game, is sort of running into problems and having to improvise in order to like negotiate those. But it was pretty fun. I remember playing the first Monaco and it was very much a lot of that, except in just a more of a 2D space rather than the sort of isometric 3D one.
Much more stylized art style in that first one too. I guess from what I've heard from the developers, they also want to make the sequel a bit easier to play by yourself.
Oh, okay.
Like, I guess playing through Monaco 1 single player was kind of a struggle at times.
I could see that.
Yeah. I felt like... I'm curious to see how character balance worked, because it felt like once we got access to Una, we could solve a lot of problems with people. Your fists.
Yeah.
Una and the healer feels like a pretty solid combo.
Though, one thing I did learn with Una pretty quickly, 'cause I went in there expecting her to work like the, what's the character from Monaco 1 called? It's not like the cleaner, but something like that. But he basically, it's the same role. He incapacitates guards. But I think the Monaco 1 character, I think, did it more permanently.
Yeah.
And so I went in expecting guards to just stay down after I beat them up, but then they only stay down a certain amount of time.
Like a balance consideration. Maybe I felt like that was...
That wouldn't surprise me. But that definitely makes sense. So you actually have to kind of be aware of how long guards are going to be incapacitated and when you're actually able to take advantage of that. So you kind of have to time when you're going to engage guards and sort of plan that out with your team.
Yeah.
But I liked what was there. I definitely see this as like... I could see this being like a pretty popular content game.
Yeah.
In the vein of like,
especially like because it suits like big groups of players.
Yeah, exactly. In the vein of like Lethal Company and all the iterations from that. But I could see us streaming it in the future.
Yeah.
If there's definitely other co-op games I would want to stream first, but if we're ever in a situation where we need to like fall back on something.
It feels like similar to how I felt like about Best Served Cold, where like I'm excited for it as like a content like maybe as much as like the actual game, maybe even more so.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's a decent spot.
Awesome.
Okay. Monster Train 2.
Yeah.
I played, I'd say, a good amount of the first Monster Train, not as much as
Okay.
I'd played Slay the Spire, and I really loved the last game from this developer, which was kind of like a sort of roguelike isometric RPG.
Oh, what was
called
that?
Inkbound.
Oh, okay.
Which I guess like they wanted to make it more of a live service sort of thing. I guess it didn't really take off enough to justify it, but I had a lot of fun with it. But I am excited for more Monster Train. And this is more Monster Train. I don't really have a great handle on like any major differences between the first game and this one.
Oh, okay.
All the clans you can play as are all new, and they do seem to function differently from the clans in the first game.
Okay.
I think one change they've made is there's now like a deployment phase. So if you know how Monster Train works, it's sort of like a tower defense kind of deck builder.
Oh, okay.
You're like on a train, and the train has like 3 different floors. You have to put like units on the different floors, and like as enemies enter the train, they like go to the base floor and they move up a floor like every turn. So you have to kind of like keep like at them.
So like the bottom floor is like your first line of defense.
Yes,
then.
exactly.
Okay.
Although they if they like survive being killed and your guys also survive being killed, like they'll still move up.
Oh, okay.
So, like, you can't like block them forever.
Okay.
So yeah. And Monster Train 2 has like added like a deployment phase, so you can get monsters on the train and figure out your like lineup kind of before the action starts, which is a nice change. But other than that, I don't really have a feel for like any other big changes they're making, especially because like it's really like just like the combat available now. It seems like there's other like buildings and stuff to work with that are closed off in the demo. Also, there does seem to be more story in this one. They're fleshing out the lore of the Monster Train universe.
Mm-hmm.
One of the factions is like angel themed, and the angels were the bad guys in the first game.
Oh, okay.
And, like the like leader of the angel clan is one of the bosses from the first game, which I'm enjoying.
Interesting.
I got my first Monster Train 2 victory with them, so I appreciate that. But yeah, I usually buy these kind of games on sale, so I'm kind of tempted to place it there.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm hyped.
Okay.
All right, I know this next one.
Yes.
I'm excited to talk
Throw that
about.
shit right up to future stream.
All right.
Because this is my game of the festival.
All right.
I loved this game so much. This is Moves of the Diamond Hand. Or I'll try my best to explain it.
Yeah, good luck.
So it's a first-person game, and you start off. You get off the train, and the entire demo takes place at the train station, and you got to leave the train station. But this is an RPG. It's sort of kind of like a story-driven RPG where there's like a lot of dialogue choices, and then you have different skills that you can level up. And you can complete objectives with a number of different ways based on which skills that you've invested into. Mm-hmm. But like all the skill challenges involve rolling pipped 6-sided dice. And the way you level up your skills is you adjust the dice, and so you adjust the dice for that roll. Mm-hmm. So like each skill has a 6-sided pipped dice, but each dice starts with 3 pips at 1 and 3 sides at 1 pip, and then 3 sides that are just blank. But every time you level up, you can either adjust one pip up or add like a number to one of the blank sides. Mm-hmm. So that's how you level up your skills. But then you can also increase your odds of success by equipping items. And as I was like halfway through this demo, I was like, God, where have I seen this before? Yeah. What does this feel like? Oh, this is Disco Elysium.
Yeah. I've heard like this developer like get a lot of comparisons to Disco Elysium in a positive way.
Yeah. But in addition to that, like I also just really loved the vibe. Mm-hmm. Like the sort of aesthetic it's just like very sort of like neon lit urban, like nighttime setting that just really clicked with me. I just really liked, and a lot of like really fun writing and good humor. The aesthetic and the humor almost made me think of like I don't know if you've ever played jazz punk.
Yeah, I played a bit of jazz punk.
It reminded me of that a lot, but it was just so much fun. I loved like talking with all these like weird eccentric characters and like doing like a goofy, like solving problems in goofy ways. Like I don't know if I want to spoil what the last objective is, but the main objective to get, you need to get out of the subway because you want to join a particular circus that's kind of has a reputation for having like really like prestigious artists, but you can't leave the subway because somebody has had their valuable instrument stolen, their bass instrument.
Okay.
And so guards are blocking people from leaving because they need to find who stole it and where the stolen bass is. So the demo is about you kind of finding the bass and then returning it, and then you finally get to leave. But once you're out of the station, the demo ends. But it's a lot of fun. There's the train station has a decent chunk to actually explore. I really liked just the even like beyond the dialogue and skill challenges, just the exploration itself was really fun too. But I just loved everything about it. I really appreciate when a game's disparate systems all click and mesh with each other in a fun and interesting way. I think that's part of what makes Yakuza 0 my favorite Yakuza game, because all the systems are very clearly designed to interact with each other.
The money and
and I really got that feeling with this.
Awesome. This is one I really need to check out. This demo.
I guess this developer's made other games before this, and at least just judging from the trailers, they seem to operate very similar.
Yeah.
So I'm probably going to stream one or two of the games from this before this comes out.
Yeah, I remember hearing good things about Betrayal at Club Low. I think was the game they did before this one that was supposed to be pretty similar. Yeah, I'm excited to see you stream that and find out more about this one.
Yeah, I definitely have a lot of fun with it, and highly recommend checking out the demo.
Awesome.
It's great.
Okay.
But yeah, it's my game of the festival.
Nice. All right. I don't think we need to talk about Myrmidon too much.
What was there was definitely shown in our stream of it.
I'd say that some of the passes broke my heart, and this was definitely one of those.
Yeah.
I will say, if you didn't watch our stream, this is a co-op game where one person plays a puppeteer and the other person plays with the puppet. The puppet does like a lot of like platforming stuff, and the puppeteer like moves things around their world to help them win. It's a great concept for a game. I think the art in this is like really great looking. The game is so buggy and it just doesn't function
and unreliable.
I will say I checked their Steam page, and a couple things, like, I guess they didn't change my opinion on the game, but they softened it a bit. They did release it for free. They're not making money off this, and this is also a student project. So they're at like a game design school. So it's a project they're working on. They put out, and they have said they're going to work on addressing bugs, but still, even free, I don't think they should have released it in the state it's in.
Yeah,
I would love to come back in like 6 months or a year and like find a more functional game. I would love to check that out, but I cannot like in good just like put it anywhere else.
Yeah, I think a polished and functioning version of this game would be really compelling and really fun to play and potentially stream, but like in the state it's in, it's just...
I did say one of the things the developer said they like were working on patching was like specifically like the stick placement.
Yeah, that was really frustrating to do.
I guess I'll say it's more stable if the puppet hosts, but like...
Oh, okay.
That shouldn't be the case. Okay. They might have, like, as a student project, I wonder if maybe they just bit off more than was like capable, because you have to have like that online hosting component. That has to be tight.
There's definitely a lot of moving parts going on, especially since watching back on our VOD, it definitely feels like both players aren't really existing in the same space.
Yeah.
They're just the way they interface in their own spaces influences the other's space.
Yeah.
And that's probably going to involve a lot of kind of
like sending information.
Yeah,
back
packet loss
forth.
and crosstalk and all issues with that.
Yeah.
But,
Especially stuff that requires like tight timing for platforming.
But I like the idea. I think it's very inspired, and as John mentioned, the art direction's really cool.
I think I got the better end of the deal on that, because I think I would assume what the puppet sees is a bit more visually interesting.
Actually, I actually really liked the puppeteer side, because what the puppeteer side is basically a stop motion animation studio.
Okay.
So it has sort of its own appeal, kind of seeing how like underneath the surface and how the sausage is made.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I suspect the puppet perspective is more like a classic kind of supernatural video game setting.
Yeah, with kind of like a stop motion feel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe if they can polish it a bit.
Yeah, in the future we can take another look, but
but right now it's not.
Yeah,
it's not in a state that's playable.
Mm-hmm. All right. Neo Junk City.
Yes, this is another one I enjoyed quite a bit. Not to Moves of the Diamond Hand level, but I still liked it quite a lot. And this is another game, like, as I played through, I kind of realized the sort of connections to older games that it took inspiration from. So this is kind of, I think it's mostly like a point-and-click adventure. It's like a pixel art, takes place in like this sort of dystopian cyberpunk city, and you play as an android who's programmed to sort of basically you're like an android police officer, so you're like a peacekeeper and a detective, and the tutorial is sort of you getting your memory rebooted and kind of relearning like all the basic aspects of being like an android cop. So you learn how to like pick up objects and use them to interact with each other. And then you also, the game also has a separate, what would I call them? Sections for, one is like driving, and it's sort of like classic, the store page describes it, but I don't know if you remember playing Yakuza 0. The one of the real estate kings had you play that Sega driving game.
Yeah.
I think it's called like Outrun.
Yeah,
it feels a lot like that.
Huh.
And then there's also a sort of kind of almost like light gun style shooting gallery section where you shoot enemies. So there's a bit. So there's like occasional like action sections to kind of punctuate the pacing, the more sort of adventure game style pacing. But I think for the most part, it's kind of moving around different screens and kind of solving like environmental puzzles. But the story is that, like I said, you're an android police officer. You just got your memory rebooted. You're relearning how to do police stuff. But just as you finish the tutorial, the guy handling your training says he has to reboot you one more time.
Oh no.
And then so you turn off and then you reboot again, but now you're not in the police station anymore. You're out in the middle of the street and there's a dead body in front of you. And the dead body is of the guy that was training you.
Oh no.
So immediately, you're right in the middle of some like really like exciting mystery that you need to solve. But there's one funny thing that the problem. So obviously you want to figure out what's going on, but the problem is it's against your programming to like not report the death of this character. No. So if you do that, then you're just sent to be disposed because you're just the prime suspect and a defective robot. So if you choose that option, you just get disposed of in the credits roll. So you have to like click a button to like go against your programming and figure out what's going on yourself. That was pretty fun. And there's a lot of like fun like characters and dialogue.
Nice.
I wrote down a few one-liners I came across. The one I did post in the Discord was like what was it? Like, I don't want to meet Mr. Tickles. So Mr. Tickles is like some like weird squid monster. So Neo Junk City, the city that this takes place in, I think one of the things about it is that it's like partially flooded, and it's flooded with like toxic waste. So it's dangerous for anybody to like fall in there. But there's also like large squid monsters in there. And there's a gap in one of the screens. There's a gap that you can't get across. And if you try to jump across, you get grabbed by a tentacle.
Oh, no.
And that's Mr. Tickles. But there's also some other great lines like, looks like we've got a real Schrodinger's penis situation over here. And, before there's a boss fight near the end of the demo, one of the things he says before the fight is, I love drugs almost as much as I love cartoons. So
that sounds really fun.
Really good fun, really good tone. But one thing I realized playing through the demo is, where we play sort of an android wrapped up in some sort of situation about rogue androids, and there's separate sections about like light gun shooting where you shoot enemies. This is Snatchers.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
you're right.
This is a lot of the stuff, like systems going on in this game really feel a lot like Snatchers, which I watched somebody play a few months ago.
Yeah, that's something like I kind of wanted to try streaming sometimes. Like, there's any way to get that functional.
Yeah,
but
you need to get like a Sega CD or something.
Snatchersy. I would just love to like experience some like old school Kojima.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this sounds really promising.
But yeah, this is another game I think would definitely make a good stream.
Okay,
So I would put it up there.
This might be another demo I also check
Yeah,
out.
it was a lot of fun.
Okay.
I wasn't very good at the driving, but there wasn't really a lot of driving in the demo, at least.
Let's see. I did eventually get to the point in Yakuza 0 where I could beat the king at Outrun, but it took me a while.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. All right, I'll talk about Neon Garden for a bit. You played a couple neon cyberpunky games.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is the only one I played. This is, I guess it's like a roguelike kind of. It's sort of a city builder, I guess.
Okay.
Like sort of like, I'd also say kind of like Sim Tower, if you remember that one.
Yeah.
So you're in like this cyberpunk city, and you've just bought a city block, essentially. Like, the previous owner couldn't pay his rent, so they demolished everything he built and resold the block. So classic roguelike setup. You get like a selection of buildings you can build on the little grid you have. And there's like residential buildings, commercial buildings, industrial buildings. They all do different stuff, and they interact with each other. So like, if you have a bar, it makes more money if it's next to a residential building.
Oh, okay.
If you have an industrial building next to a residential building, the residential building loses money.
Mhm.
That sort of thing. So like, every round you get a different set of like 3 buildings you can choose to build on your grid, and you can build buildings on top of each other. You keep building up and up and up. And then after like, I think like 8 rounds maybe, you have to pay your rent. So you have to pay like a set amount of money, and that's where the roguelike portion comes in. You have to like keep building up, keep making more money until like eventually you can't make your rent and they demolish your block. Let's see. Other wrinkle is that like every time after you pay your rent, shanty apartments show up on your grid that like complicate things, and that sort of makes it so like you can't like plan out your construction super far in advance, because like if you're leaving a spot open for a certain building, it might get taken up by a shanty apartment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed this quite a bit. Of the like roguelikes, I think it felt like the most unique, most interesting, and I thought the music and the art was really good. I liked it a lot, but this is usually the kind of thing I wait for a sale for, and I think that's probably still here. but really fun and really nice to see someone doing unique stuff in the roguelike genre. Like, so many of the games Steam recommended to me for this Next Fest were just like hey, we made Balatro. We heard you like Balatro.
Yo, dog, I heard you like Balatro.
Here's something Balatro-ish. That was like the big game from last February's Next Fest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, and then I'll talk about Naya or Naya.
Okay.
It's a very Myst-inspired game with a lot of like love for those Myst-ish games. It's got like FMV cutscenes with Australian actors of possibly dubious quality.
Awesome.
I felt like they did okay. I think this runs into some problems like pretty early on.
Oh yeah.
Like, I feel like Myst is not a perfect game by any stretch of the imagination, and like certain things about it haven't aged great, but I think one of the things it nails, like even early on, is a sense of mystery. You're just dropped on this strange island right away. You get to just wander it, explore it, and take in interesting scenery. Naya drops you in a weird location and then dumps just like a ton of like jargon and techno babble on top of you.
Yeah.
The actors show up like a lot more than like the FMV cutscenes show up in like Myst or Riven.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think part of it is like by design, like they want to drop jargon on you, and then like part of the puzzle is like figuring out what they were trying to say to you, but it does like ruin that kind of like sense of like mystery and isolation like those games traditionally have. And I just like, I like the environment well enough, but I didn't feel like any of the puzzles in the demo were especially interesting or like clever. It was mostly just like figuring out where levers to pull were. Also, like, the game essentially gives you a box that has like a bunch of like items. I think they were called like Pait or something like that in the demo.
Okay.
It's another one of those jargon things you have to figure out. They're all just like these little orbs that are different colors and have different symbols on them. And it seems like in the full game there will be like various stations or tools where you have to use these to power them on. So essentially the game just gives you a box of 20 keys and you have to like figure out where the keys go. And that also feels like kind of antithetical to Myst's puzzle design.
Yeah.
Like, whatever you say about the puzzles in this game, they weren't like inventory based. They were very much interacting with the environment and figuring out how it worked. And I just didn't really see a lot of that in the demo. This was like the first demo I played, and I was pretty disappointed, unfortunately. As much as I like dug like the FMV scenes, I think it's a pass for me for now. Although maybe if I see some like streamers play it and it looks like they've turned things around in development, because I said like I've seen developers reacting poorly to criticism. The developers of Naya, I'll give them credit, seem to have been reacting well to that and taking things under advisement, especially like how people interact with like the characters they show off, like maybe dialing back their presence in the story a bit.
It's interesting based on like what type of game that the demo is for. It might affect what things developers are actually even able to tweak, because like the presence of a given character or a cutscene is a little more complicated than just like adjusting like a number value.
Although since like the way this like functions is like you just have static screens in this style, like I imagine like if they could just like trim a cutscene, like the character's not around after that. But
that's good. It's nice to see developers that are more receptive.
There's a lot of like, there's clearly a lot of passion on display in this, and I just wish it like gelled with me more. But I hope they do make a quality game in the end.
Cool.
And I also have Nice Day for Fishing, a fishing RPG. It's kind of an interesting meta concept to it. It's sort of set in like I guess like an MMO maybe. Like the main character is like a minor NPC in an MMO.
Okay.
In like the starting town where all the adventurers show up, and like Nice Day for Fishing is like just one of the set lines he has. He has like 3 set lines. It's just like good morning, nice day for fishing, and then a laugh, and that's all he ever says. Even after you take control of him.
Interesting.
But eventually like some sort of strange bug happens in the world of the game, and all the adventurers are disconnected. Like evil thing is released, and it somehow gives like adventurer status to the fishermen.
Oh,
So now all the villagers have to rely on him to handle all their like quests and like side stories and stuff, but all he can do is fish.
oh dear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It was pretty fun. It was a little like wink wink nudge nudge. I'd say a lot of silly jokes about game mechanics and whatnot, but I had fun with it. Also
A little self-aware.
very self-aware. Yeah. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I'd probably check it out eventually, but I think I'd put it in probably waiting for a sale.
Sure. Okay.
Once Upon a Puppet.
Yeah, these next 3 games are me,
see.
but I think I need to use the bathroom before
sure.
we get there. So.
Getting it.
Okay.
All right.
So Once Upon a Puppet.
Tell me about this
This
puppet.
was, let me see, I think the last 3D platformer I played. But I thought this one was really interesting. This is out of all the ones, like, I think this is my favorite, like, aesthetic. I thought the setting was really interesting. So it basically takes place. So the setting is basically like a kingdom, but the whole kingdom is like a theatrical marionette stage, and so. And sort of the character you play is sort of a kind of Banjo-Kazooie style partnership between two characters.
Okay.
You have a marionette and then the stage hand, which is like a floating master hand that literally pulls the strings, but the literal string connection between them is what kind of establishes a lot of the move set of your character. But I guess the story of the game is like you have this, like I said, you have this kingdom of like marionette puppets on this like stage, but one of the king's, I think, son has gone missing, and so he's gone into despair, and he started to like dispose of puppets he deems imperfect.
Oh,
and
no.
So it's created this sort of like so it's like, I don't know how to describe it when I turn this music down. Sort of like a lower sort of,
Okay. Low cast? Or
yeah, like a lower sort of cast, like we're all like the disposed puppets, and it's not just puppets, but also like set pieces and stuff. So you have a lot of former marionette puppets that have like turned to scavenging, and a lot of like different kind of disparate set pieces that have just been like stitched together to form like functional buildings and housing and stuff. And like a lot of the enemies are like disposed like marionettes or objects that have been like cursed and animated and stuff like that. But like I said, I thought the setting was pretty interesting. I guess I'm trying to remember. I think the main conceit is that you're trying to like. Oh yeah, so like the story of the demo is that you're trying to meet with an oracle to learn how to get the two characters detached from one another. But at the end of the demo, you run into the oracle, and she says, in order for that to happen, you have to like remove the curse from the land that was caused by the king's son going missing and tossing everybody out. And I guess there's a curse that's like reanimating some puppets and turning them evil and stuff. Okay. So it kind of has like almost a Dark Souls vibe to it, at least in terms of like story. Not much in gameplay. So a lot of the gameplay is like I said, you using the strings between the two characters. So like the stagehand will like grab onto a surface, and the puppet will walk away to kind of build up tension. That'll like propel you across a gap or into like a breakable surface to get through to the next area. But beyond that, the moveset isn't too sophisticated. I think the main appeal is just kind of the aesthetic, which is genuinely pretty interesting. But I don't know, in terms of like the actual feel of it, there weren't really any like bugs, or it didn't really like feel clunky, but it also didn't feel too remarkable beyond like the novelty of like its art style and its setting. So I don't know if I would put it above. I'd put it about average of like the 3D platformers I played.
Okay.
Probably under like Waiting for a Sale.
Sure.
Like, yeah, maybe like just below Isopod,
Okay,
but above Gear Grid.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, and then
Out of Sight.
This is one I definitely really dug the idea of. But the demo was also really short. I don't think there's quite enough to really like put its best foot forward. Wasn't really anything wrong with it. It's just the demo was just really sparse. But I love the idea of it. So it seems like it's sort of like a Little Nightmare style game where it's technically like a bit of puzzling and a bit of platforming, but it's mostly just navigating this kind of dark and hostile space. And so you play a little girl who's blind, but she has this strange power that allows her to see through her teddy bear.
Oh.
So most of the game is you carrying your teddy bear and finding out like places to like put your teddy bear to allow you to see, while you have to like interact with like objects in the room to get to the next area. So you like, since it requires you to
get down, cat.
It requires both your hands to carry your teddy bear with you. You have to set it down in order to like push a crate or like open a drawer or open a drawer to climb up, or like manipulate like a switch or something like that. But of course, whenever you're doing that, your camera's completely fixed, so you kind of have to think about where you're placing your teddy bear in order to get all the intel you need to do what you need to do. But I love the concept. There weren't really, I guess, there weren't really any sort of like puzzles, at least to the extent where I feel that they like actually tested you like intellectually. Everything you had to do was pretty straightforward, and then the demo ended pretty quickly. But the concept itself is almost enough to drive my interest.
Okay.
But I'd still probably put it in like waiting for a sale.
Okay. Yeah, it does sound very interesting.
And
oh yeah, you're also Promise Mascot Agency.
Yeah. Did you play this one?
I didn't play this one. I didn't get around to it.
All right. This one was pretty fun.
It looks very very out there.
Mm-hmm. Very irreverent and goofy and fun, and also voiced by Kiryu.
Yeah, the main character's voice was the same.
What's the voice actor's name?
Yeah, I don't.
Kiryu voice actor. Oh, not Yang Ye. That's the English voice. Yeah. Takaya Kuroda. That's his name.
I knew it was something with a K.
Yeah. Unfortunately, once again, typecast as like
a Yakuza. Or a former Yakuza.
Yeah,
maybe.
A former Yakuza soldier. I would be disappointed, but I mean,
he's got such a voice.
If you're going to, if your character is going to be a former Yakuza character and you have the ability to employ Takaya Kuroda, I can't imagine a better person to perform that role. He's mastered that performance. So the story is you're a Yakuza soldier that was about to close like a really important deal, but right as the deal happened, some sort of like betrayal happened, and instead of getting the money that you were entitled to in said deal, you instead chose to save your sworn brother. So
true Kiryu behavior.
So your boss has you fake your death and then move to this town called Promise in order to kind of sort of slowly make the money back that you should have gotten through this deal that went south. And the means you end up taking to get this money back is running a mascot agency, because mascots are a pretty big and interesting thing in Japan.
Yeah.
Just about every sort of institution you could, like civil or business institution you could think of, has its own mascot, and it's probably really fucking weird.
Yeah.
But it takes that idea and turns it into a fun management sim video game where you have to like recruit different really goofy and obscure mascots and find sort of business gigs where given mascots attributes would at least make sense. So some mascots are funny, some mascots are cute, some mascots have connections to different types of businesses. So that's a good example. So yeah, one mascot is like a piece of tofu that's always crying. But since it's a piece of tofu, it has like the food attribute, so it makes sense to have it go to events that are based on, like, for example, like restaurants opening.
Yeah.
So, the demo, it was actually like time sensitive.
Oh, okay.
So it ended after a certain amount of time. By the time my time ran out, I had recruited, I think, like 3 mascots, and gotten a few gigs for them. In addition to recruiting mascots, there's also a team of like mascot helpers you can recruit. So like sometimes when mascots are out on jobs, they'll run into trouble.
Oh, no.
And so you have to pick like mascot helpers to come and help them out of a tough situation. So for example, the first problem I ran into was with the tofu mascot. She tried to pass through like a regularly sized door, but since she's a big block of tofu, she got stuck in the doorway. So yeah, I had to find a helper to help push them through the door. and then I ran into another mascot in another gig that was getting heckled, and so you need to find a helper that helps them deal with that kind of situation.
Okay.
So there's a lot of like driving around. So beyond the basic management sim aspect of the game, most of the gameplay is like driving around, almost kind of GTA style, around the city. And the first time I was introduced to that, I immediately ran into another car because I forgot which side that you drive on in Japan. But it's pretty fun. But it's just the driving. You don't even get out of your car. You go to a destination, and then there's just a button prompt to interact with it, to either recruit somebody or talk to somebody or talk to a business or something. So it's mostly just management or driving. But the story obviously is really fun, really charming. It definitely seems like stream material.
Okay.
So I would
Nice.
be fine with putting it up there.
Sure.
But yeah, I think that's all I have to say about it. Let me check my notes real quick. Oh yeah, Showa era management. So like the bullet points on the Steam page specifically mention Showa era. I need to look that up.
Yeah, I'm not sure when exactly that is. I don't know my eras of Japan. I think we're in Reiwa right now. Hear people saying that a lot.
Oh, okay.
I know it changes whenever there's a new emperor. I think that's how it works.
Oh, okay. But yeah, we can move on to Roguelite Deck Builder.
Oh, yeah.
I think we both played this one.
Yeah. I don't have a ton to say about Roguelite Deck Builder.
I mean, it's less either.
It's less a game and just like a shit post in demo form. Mm-hmm. It's like someone like saw like dozens of games tagged Roguelite Deck Builders on Steam and was like, hey, I'm sick of this shit. So you're a guy in a creepy office, and the guy in there asks you to... I say you're a guy. You might not. You might be a beautiful lady.
Well, yeah, and the guy in there... Husband. Yeah, the guy in there, his name is Husband.
Yes, he is Husband.
Yes.
You have to build him a deck. Yes. So you go out on the deck with some planks of wood, and you have to hammer the planks in with nails.
It's sort of like Surgeon Simulator style, like goofy...
You get bonuses and like for like streaks of like perfect nails, and I don't think I ever got one of those.
I got them a few times as I kind of figured out the rhythm.
I hammered my fingers way too much. There's only 2 decks constructible in the demo from what I saw. Mm-hmm. But this is very silly. It actually kind of gave me Clickholding vibes, just the interactions with Husband.
Yeah, I could see that.
It's just very weird and creepy. And also, like, once you finish a deck, you can spend your money on upgrades for your hammer or your planks or nails, and also you can spend $1 million for freedom.
Yes,
which I assume is the victory condition.
Yeah, I bought like all the cheap upgrades. I noticed like one of the upgrades was like $100 for like investing in like
stocks,
crypto or something. Yeah. I didn't quite get there.
Yeah, I didn't either. But yeah, I don't think I'd ever play this, but
yeah,
it's funny. It's a good joke.
yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to think whether I put it under pass or if, like, I would put it under watch someone else play.
Yeah.
If I felt there was going to be a bit more substance to the game.
Yeah.
But right now,
yeah.
It's a meme.
Yeah, it's a meme.
Yeah.
Okay. Me. Ruffy and the Riverside. This is, I think, the last 3D platformer that I played.
Oh, okay.
This is definitely more on the puzzle end of 3D platformers.
Oh, okay.
When I describe it, it's going to sound very Banjo-Kazooie-ish, but it doesn't really play like that. You play as a bear with a little flying companion. In this case, it's a bee. And there's a mole that teaches you abilities and stuff and unlocks new levels for you. But the big conceit in Ruffy and the Riverside is that Ruffy is able to, like, grab the, like, texture or the properties of anything that's around him and apply that to anything else in the world.
Oh, okay.
So, like, the like tutorial thing that starts the game is you're on, like, a platform that just fell off a waterfall, and in order to save yourself and all your friends, you have to find a way to get off of it. So what you do is you grab the texture of, like, some vines that are on the platform with you, and you apply the vines to the waterfall, and then you can just climb the waterfall.
Okay. Interesting.
That's the whole conceit of the game. You're in a world. You collect, like, I forget what exactly. When you mentioned diamonds for Kero Quest, I thought, was Ruffy also diamonds, or was it something? There is some object. It might
some
be
main
pages,
collectible,
maybe, or something.
Okay.
You find pages to unlock new levels. I will say the demo felt very much like this is a place built just for the demo. I'm not sure if the way it's laid out is like something that's going to be in the main game, but I felt like the entrances to levels are like next to each other, which didn't quite feel right. And what you saw, the levels was pretty small. There were definitely areas that were blocked off, but I felt like I did a really good job at showing just what you can do with its mechanics. It also has a lot of sections that are like on the side of walls. There will be like 2D sections you can jump into, sort of like Mario Odyssey style. But like to solve some of them, you have to like grab a texture and apply it to the 2D section while you're outside of it.
Oh, okay.
It's like almost like graffiti, sort of. Like one of the first ones you see, there's like a giant plant monster blocking your way. So you have to find lava on the map. And then because your ability to hold textures like that is timed, you have to apply the lava to a river that sort of circulates around the map. And then you can grab lava from the river and apply it to the plant that's inside the 2D section. And then you can collect whatever items you are.
Okay.
There's like sections where you like change the textures of paintings to like sell them to people, or you have to change symbols by like copying them and swapping them into places.
Okay.
But it does a lot with its mechanic in the very little time the demo has.
Cool.
I think it was like maybe 30 to 40 minutes. One thing I thought was interesting, like there's a base sort of like hub level, and then there are 3 other levels that are attached to it. The first one is kind of like a woods with some ruins. The second one is a beach, and you like have to freeze the entire ocean to get to some places, which was fun. But a lot of that one was closed off. And then the third has like absolutely no interaction with any of the mechanics. It's just a big skateboarding ramp where you do tricks and stuff.
Okay.
If you hit the high score, you get some collectibles. I thought it was pretty fun. A definite change of pace, but it shows like they're not like they're gonna try to like experiment with exactly what you can do with it.
Okay.
There wasn't any like combat in the demo from what I saw. Like when I had to get rid of like a monster, I had to use the power to just sort of remove it to get it out of the path. Otherwise, you like just avoid hazards. I don't know if that'll carry out to the full game. The trailer I watched definitely seemed like there was like some sort of evil force at work. So maybe there'll be boss fights, but maybe it'll be more puzzle-ish. But overall, I was very pleased with this. It was one of my favorite 3D platformers
Yeah,
I've ever played.
check
So
that out.
I think I'll put it on the wish list.
Awesome.
It also has a fun sort of papercraft aesthetic. Like all the characters are just like 2D sort of cutouts, and then the world itself is 3D.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's fun.
Okay. So this is Shotgun Cop Man.
Ooh.
So in terms of just like raw gameplay, this is probably the most fun I had of all the
Okay.
games at
Nice.
NextFest. This is from the maker of My Friend Pedro, if you've ever heard of that.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember seeing that.
You can kind of definitely sense like the kind of connective tissue there. But it's like an action platformer, and almost like kind of reminds me a lot of like Super Meat Boy.
Okay.
But your main means of locomotion isn't your legs that you think you would use to jump,
I would think that.
but instead the recoil from the guns that you shoot.
Nice.
And this creates a lot of really, really fun and satisfying gameplay loops. So you have a pistol in one hand and a shotgun in the other. The pistol is I think, what is going to be your main tool for killing enemies, but the pistol also gives you just enough altitude to jump over like projectiles that enemies or guns that fire at you. And then the shotgun is the real tool that you use to really kind of get across gaps. And but it also does a great job at blasting enemies in the face too. But there's, at least in the demo, there's not too much to the story. It's pretty explicit with it. So you're shotgun cop man.
Yeah.
Your mission is go to hell and arrest Satan.
That's amazing.
So yeah, you go through just a series of bite-sized little levels that you go through and blast enemies and jump across gaps and through saw blades and stuff. I think, gosh, there's a good chunk of levels in the demo. I want to say at least like 10 to 15. The levels are pretty short, but they're pretty fun. Like the gameplay is just so just really solid and punchy. Like when I was playing through it, I felt like even though I was playing with mouse and keyboard, I felt like I was holding a controller with a rumble pack by just how good the audio visual feedback was.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was just so much fun. And then the demo ends with a boss fight that was also like really fun and intense. It was hard, but hard in a way that felt fair and that kept my adrenaline pumping and kept me engaged. And it wasn't a fight that I felt was like frustrating. But and then the demo ended really fun. I don't know if like story wise it's going to be interesting enough for content.
Okay.
But I definitely want to play it. It's solidly on my wish list.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Skin Deep. We both played this one.
Oh, you played this one too?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have more sim experience, I think. So do you want to lead the discussion?
Sure.
on this
Yes. Yeah, I like Sims a lot.
one?
So this is about, in this game you play Nina Pasadena.
Already just a great name.
Yes. And so I think you're like a security officer, or like an officer for like a security company
Yeah.
that contracts out to spaceships as sort of an insurance policy against pirates. And the way it works is that you as Nina sit in cryogenic sleep in a pod that is placed in a seemingly random section of the spaceship, in a place that not even the crew is aware of, because
They don't want the information to be tortured out of them.
yes, exactly. And so then if the spaceship that you're contracted with is ever invaded by pirates, a failsafe is triggered that wakes you up, and then you fight off the pirates by navigating the spaceship and using whatever tools are at your disposal to fight them. So you probably imagine a few things with that sort of setup, but there's a few things that mix things up. First of all, the pirates that you're fighting have
Had some sort of operation.
yes, they have
procedure.
an interesting augmentation to them where you cannot simply incapacitate them, because their heads are
like detachable.
yes, their heads are detachable
by design.
Yes, yes.
All heads are detachable if you work hard enough.
So if you defeat an enemy, the head will get up and float away to a respawn point where it'll respawn its body and reattach itself. So in order to solve this, you need to pick up their head and dispose of it.
Yeah, usually by flushing it down a toilet or putting it in a garbage disposal.
In a garbage disposal.
Either way, they're ejected out into space.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and also the crew members are cats.
Yes. Whenever you free one, and the main objective is to free all crew members. So
yes,
whenever you free them, there's a meow.
Yes, they leap out of their prison, and there's big letters that goes meow.
It's so good.
Yeah, this game was extremely fun. Yeah, really charming.
so stylish. So yeah. Just every choice it makes is like really ridiculous, but somehow it like doesn't like make it a mess. It just like works together very well.
Yes, definitely.
I was just endlessly entertained. One thing I'm curious about is like I feel like I haven't like played a ton of Sims, but I know like one thing is like they usually have like sort of side quests and like characters you can interact with. Yeah. I think that would be difficult to do if it like sticks to like just ship-based environments.
Yeah, in this format.
But from what I saw in the trailer, it looks like there's some other environments you might navigate.
Okay.
Eventually, and it looks like maybe Nina gets guns. I'm not quite sure.
Well, she's got a gun in the artwork.
Oh, she does. Yeah, mostly she uses like pepper boxes to stun enemies.
Yeah, a lot of the combat in the demo was using like objects that you just stumbled across. It felt very emergent in that way, which is a lot of fun. So
like you would just like find some way to like knock a guard out or like just distract them a bit, and then you like jump on their back and just sort of ride them into like a wall or something to knock them out.
Yeah.
There was one fun section for me where like I got like I accidentally alerted 2 guards. I managed to take one of them out, but then I kind of ran from the other one. Mm-hmm. But where they spotted me was in like the laundry room of like the second ship you get access to. So I ran away, I shut off the alarm, but then the alarm kept reactivating. Oh. So what I'm pretty sure was happening was the one guard I'd left alive kept like getting up off the floor, slipping on the floor again, and like reactivating the alarm. So when I went back down there, it was pretty easy to just pop his head off. I thought that was fun and emergent.
But yeah, like I like how improvisational a lot of the tools are at your disposal. Like like a lot of the stuff you use to like incapacitate enemies, like it's either like a thing of pepper that you throw at them, or a banana peel.
Yeah.
Or if there's an alarm going off, in order to call it off, what you need to do is go on the intercom and pretend to be another guard.
Yeah.
Like, oh, everything's fine over here.
Yeah.
It's very fun.
So what do you think? On the wish list, or do you think this is something we'd stream down the line? There is definitely some story at play here. Someone is hunting down Nina Passage.
Since the main appeal is like the ImSim gameplay elements that collide with each other, normally I would put it on the wish list, but I think there's enough with like the story and just how fucking silly everything is. I think it could be a stream game.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's good.
Yeah, that's I think Skin Deep's probably my second favorite game.
Okay, yeah, it was pretty high up there for me as well. All right, another kitty cat game.
Yes,
Sombra.
Yes, this is I think this is the only 2D platformer I played.
I think the only 2D platformer games I played were like Metroidvania.
Yeah, and it's pretty straightforward. So you play a kitty cat. And there's not much to the moveset. You know, you jump. I think there's a double jump, and you eventually unlock the ability to wall jump. But the main like gameplay conceit of it is that you never stop. Okay. So your character's always running, which I guess is interesting, but the demo never really had a section that really sort of demonstrated that as like something novel, at least more novel than annoying.
Okay, yeah.
Because for the most part, it was just a a hindrance that felt kind of superfluous.
Okay.
So like, I would get into a point where I would miss a jump, but since I couldn't just simply stop and turn around, I would end up losing more progress than if I could just like stop my character.
Yeah, it feels like the kind of mechanic that maybe adds more tedium than it adds like interesting.
That's
like,
exactly
challenge.
it. Yeah. And I don't know, like you could probably just do like a fun, charming 2D platformer where you play a kitty cat.
Yeah.
I don't know if you need this added bit of challenge to it where you can't stop moving, but I don't know. Maybe there's levels planned later on that actually.
Yeah. I'm thinking of like, I feel like the only game I've really heard about that works like that is the Super Meat Boy Runner.
Oh, okay.
But even then, I just don't really, that mechanic just doesn't appeal to me too much.
Yeah, I've yet to see a scenario where that's like used in an interesting way.
Yeah. And I think like with like Super Meat Boy, when you fail, it's like instant death, and you just like start over.
Yeah. I don't think there's there is like lethal fail states. I guess water just kills you.
Okay.
And there are checkpoints that will respawn you, but the checkpoints are far apart enough where dying can sometimes get frustrating.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I didn't really get like a rhyme or reason as to where the checkpoints were placed, because they were never placed like right before or after like particularly difficult platforming sections, especially when you throw in the fact that you can't stop. So like missing a jump isn't just missing a jump, but also like missing any other jumps you get to until you find a way to turn around.
Yeah.
So it almost there are some sections it almost felt like a rage game in that sort of way.
Weird.
Because the way you progress through the level is by going further and further up. So the end of the level is at the top.
Okay.
So it's very easy if you mess up to lose a lot of progress because you keep constantly falling. And I did end up in a few situations where I fell so far that just killing myself made more sense.
Yeah.
To respawn to a higher checkpoint.
That does sound rage game-ish.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's the intention.
Yeah, I don't know. But I don't. I think I feel like you could just get away with having like if you just got rid of the gimmick of not being able to stop, I think it would be a decently charming platform that was fun to play. Otherwise the controls are like pretty tight and solid and polished, but that gimmick is just
okay.
Either waiting for reviews or not for me for that. Maybe wait for reviews for that one. Sure. We'll see how other people interface with it.
And if it is a rage game, maybe watch someone else.
Yes, there you go. Yeah. Yeah. In fact, put it down there. Watch someone else play. Yeah.
Sure.
I think it's a good spot for. Okay, and then this game this next one is one I also played. It's called The Suspense. And much in the way CaraQuest 64 was the most like content packed, this was the most sparse demo I played. It's I don't know. Most of the demo comprised of just like walking around and like story. There was a very bit of slight puzzling in the demo. You had to interact with 4 different electrical boxes and figure out what voltage to set each of them to. But none of them were like directly labeled, so you have to kind of, because you have like a little piece of paper that tells like like numbers each different box and tells you what voltage each number needs, but the boxes themselves aren't labeled, so you kind of have to figure out which one is which. But beyond that, most of the rest of the demo is just like walking around. But from what was communicated in the story, it seems like you're some kind of like prisoner in some facility, and you're kind of conscripted into working on this like experiment where you build and like program this gigantic computer and then go into the computer almost sort of Tron style. But so like you wake up in like a cot in this like sort of almost metallic prison cell room with this other scientist, and this scientist is the one that's kind of teaching you how to like do your tasks and everything. And then you eventually go into the computer, and the computer's like very, very like lo-fi. It almost feels like not quite the Matrix, but like if you remember like those like really old like DOS games where like all like the backgrounds and everything are like composed of like just like blocks and numbers and stuff.
Yeah, I get the aesthetic.
But yeah, but it's like that, but like in like a 3D space that you're walking through, and you're in this computer, and it's pretty kind of abstract and obscure. It feels like the surface you're walking on is very like fleshy, and then there's like tree roots sticking out from the ceiling, and then you walk for like about like a minute or two, and then you're chased down by this like weird flesh monster, and then it reaches you and I think attacks you, and then that's where the demo ends.
Okay.
So in terms of like actual like gameplay, there's really wasn't much there. The premise was interesting, at least, but there's also like so much ambiguity. Is I'm not sure how I feel about it. So this is probably maybe like a waiting for reviews sort of thing.
Like just like wait to see more.
Yeah, because there really just was not much there.
Okay. I'll talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tactical Takedown. I will say I'm not like a huge Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle like fan. I enjoy them enough, but I did check this out because it is another Strange Scaffold game.
Oh, really? You're getting licensed for
the TMNT license.
Huh?
And Xavier Nelson seems extremely excited to
awesome
have access to it. So I'm happy for him. This is, as you might guess, a tactical RPG. I would say like a turn-based thing. In the demo, you only control one turtle at a time. And I wonder if that's going to carry through to like the full game, or if you'll get access to more of them. Because each one had like kind of a cooldown ability where you could sort of like get help from another turtle, it seemed. The gameplay is like, it's interesting. Like, so I'm comparing so many like tactical games to like Tactical Breach Wizards, because that's the last one I played.
Yeah.
So into that, it's much more focused on like combat and reactivity. Where like Breach Wizards, you were like trying to like set up like these big like almost puzzle turns,
like planning out.
Yeah, and especially since you only had access to one turtle in the demo, you really had to like kind of like just like do what little you could on your turns and like sort of try to keep yourself as safe as possible, especially because you're very outnumbered in all the combat encounters, and like Foot Clan would keep spawning in like almost every turn, so you kind of like have to like position yourself as safely as possible and like get what damage in and try to like use like the movement abilities to like maybe go in, do damage, and like get out. It was fun enough, but you know, I really prefer more that Breach Wizard style where you just like get like abilities you can just like combo and do really crazy stuff with. I didn't really see a lot of that in the Tactical Takedown demo.
This seems like more like kind of triage and efficient resource usage,
especially because like every level I was in, it didn't end when you defeated all the enemies. It just seemed like there was a point it reached where like all the enemies were just sort of eliminated and it would advance you to the next stage. I assume there must have been like a countdown somewhere I was just missing. It also like the stage kind of like moves like every couple turns or so. There will be like an area of the stage that turns red, signaling that this part of the stage is going to disappear next round. and like
Okay.
a section in green would sort of appear off the map, and that was where the new area was going to spawn in.
Okay.
So like you kind of have to. It's another thing where you have to kind of like keep on the move and keep moving. But yeah, I think describing it as triage really
Okay.
suits it. They did a good job at setting the turtles apart. The demo kind of finishes after a Donatello section. And there is a bonus Leo section that I didn't end up playing because I felt like I got enough.
Mm-hmm.
But Michelangelo feels like the most sort of mobile. He has a lot of jumping with skateboards and you can like head bounce off of enemies. Raph is like he can sort of like go on killing streaks, taking out a lot of like low level enemies. Kind of gets like a boost to damage like that. Donatello is like much less mobile, but he can like sort of control space and set up traps.
Mm-hmm.
I think that suits each character fairly well. I think this is solid. This might be a not for me, just because I just wasn't super into it, but I recognized the quality.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe wait for a sale though, because like Strange Scaffold has such a pedigree. I like to support their games.
Okay. Speaking of pedigrees, this next game I played, it's called Total Chaos. It's apparently a remake of a Doom 2 mod. It's pretty popular.
Interesting.
But it's also made by the creator of Turbo Overkill.
Really?
Yes.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. So this is the next game that they're working on. And it is very much not Turbo Overkill.
Huh.
Turbo Overkill is a very sort of fast and energetic sort of action platforming shooter. Total Chaos is almost the opposite of that. It's much slower, more somber. It's like a psychological horror game.
Really?
It's also very much like a survival horror game. It's about sort of like managing your resources. You have like both health and hunger, and healing yourself isn't as straightforward. You have to you can heal yourself with like injections from syringes, but the syringes will then cause bleeding that you need to heal with like bandages or other cloth. So but you're also like, I think it starts out you're on like a boat. I think you're like with the Coast Guard or something, but then you get washed up on this island with some like abandoned factory or industrial facility, and then you're kind of trying to figure out like why you're here, what's going on, what sort of distress signal led you here. And there's like a voice in your head speaking to you. It seems to imply that like you might be going through some sort of like psychological issue involved with like substance abuse. But it's much like darker and more serious than Turbo Overkill definitely was. But I was also really impressed by how good it looked. It like Turbo Overkill very much has that sort of like lo-fi boomer shooter aesthetic. This feels much more photorealistic, and it does a lot of stuff. It feels like it does a lot of stuff with like current tech, like lighting and textures and stuff. That I was pretty impressed by. I think I got to the end of the demo. I'm not sure though, because I got into a point where I just got killed by some enemies, and instead of respawning me, it didn't say like thanks for playing the demo, but it just like showed the title of the game and went back to like the starting screen.
Yeah, just kicked you to the menu.
So, but I'm still not sure if that's the end of the demo, because right before that section I got some shotgun shells, but I never stumbled upon a shotgun anywhere.
But I wonder if it maybe there's a section where it just goes until you die.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that's like a forced like a forced death or something. But combat is much more like slower and dangerous. It definitely feels like you're much more encouraged to just try and avoid enemies rather than fight them. So like, but yeah, I just about all the combat I did in the demo was with like just improvisational melee items with like a pickaxe or a shovel or something. It felt very sort of like belabored and like slow. like like it took like a lot of like exertion and resource to even like bother trying to fight. So it definitely felt very different from Turbo Overkill, but it definitely landed on a certain kind of vibe and aesthetic. I think it seems really promising. Obviously, the developer has a reputation for, at least with Turbo Overkill, for making really good stuff. But I'm not sure if it's something I would really dive into myself.
Okay.
So maybe not for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like, I do. I mean, I do like. I like playing like the Resident Evil games, but that's a very different vibe compared to this.
Sure, yeah,
this one's much more like dour and serious and
heavy.
psychological.
Yeah, it's interesting that was all done in like a Doom 2 mod.
Yeah, yeah. I'm curious to see what the Doom 2 mod is like.
Do you know if the like Turbo Overkill team like did the original mod? Because I wouldn't be shocked.
I wonder.
Like, came out of the old like Doom or Quake moddings.
Yeah, I'd have to check.
Yeah. Okay, I'll talk about Twilight Monk. This was the last Metroidvania I played.
Okay.
This might be the most unique, sort of. It's like, it's not, I wouldn't say super original, but definitely sets it out from the other ones mechanically. You play as a monk at some sort of like martial arts monastery, and it's attacked by some sort of evil force, and one of your fellow monks has like betrayed you and let people in, so you have to leave and like try to, I think there was like some sort of evil that was being contained there that may have been let loose. Also though, your mentor is fine and is kind of a stoner, so there's a bit of a wink and nod comedy to it. It actually kind of reminded me of like The Messenger.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that tone. Combat's interesting. You have like, your character has like this big sort of weight on their back that is attached to a chain, so when they fight they like whip that weight out at people. But you can just like drop the weight on the ground, then you can like kick it into enemies, or you can leave it on the ground for like some sort of platforming challenge. But while you do that, your range is much more limited.
Yeah,
like because you can just kick and punch. And it was solid. The level design was solid. Its big mechanical twist, I would say, is that instead of having like one big Metroidvania style map, it has an overworld that's sort of isometric, so you travel between points. And each point has their own like set map on it. And while you're on the overworld, you can get attacked by sort of random enemies that start like a little sub fight. Like I think
interesting.
Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link might have had a similar kind of mechanic.
Okay.
And I know the Adventure Time game that was very Zelda 2 inspired did the same thing.
I've never heard of that one.
I will say I enjoy this for the most part. My big complaint against it is that it doesn't have autosave. So like in like Hollow Knight or like Ori or like most of the other Metroidvanias I've played recently, if you like pick up a collectible or anything and then you die, you'll still probably have that collectible, you'll have that advancement. That's not the case in Twilight Monk. You just go back to your last save point, which is more true to the roots of the genre, I guess, but it is annoying because you have to like backtrack and find stuff you found, and it does like have kind of a knock-on effect for exploration once you realize that, because like once I noticed that, I started like whenever I would like find a collectible, I would stop thinking, where should I go next? It's let's get back to a safe point as quickly as possible, so I don't have to do this again. And it also like has an effect like the one boss fight I saw in the demo has like some dialogue before it, so like it took me a couple tries to beat, so I had to sit through that dialogue every time, and like I feel normally in like an autosave style game, like they just skip that the second and third and fourth time. And it was also sort of exacerbated because, like, as I was moving through the demo, at one point it just crashed. I think, like, maybe I accidentally accessed a section that wasn't supposed to be in the demo because, like, I just unlocked a new feature, but the moment I, like, tried to talk to a character to use it, the game just, like, quit to desktop. So, like, I'm not sure what was happening there, but it was annoying, and I didn't want to, like, backtrack and do all that again, because I just like opened up a new fast travel point that I was gonna have to re-access, and it was just like, once the full game is out and like the bugs are ironed out and there's not as many crashes, that'll probably be fine. But right now the lack of autosave is a bit of a pain.
Yeah.
So I think right now I'd probably put it in wait for reviews.
Sure.
There's plenty of other Metroidvanias I'm looking forward to. This one seems solid, but not like at the top of my 2C list.
Yeah. Sweet crashes. I did run into one crash playing Skin Deep.
Oh, okay.
And for some reason, the demo specifically says that saving is disabled just only on the demo.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
But, so I had to start the mission over. But thankfully, most of what eats up the time in that first mission is just tutorials.
Yeah.
So I was able to just speed through
Good.
that pretty quickly. But yeah, I think that was the only other crash I ran into. I did run into some situations. I don't know if I can think of like specific demos, but I did run into situations where I was not expecting a lack of autosaving that ended up biting me.
Yeah.
But anyway.
All right. We both played Twisted Tower.
Yes.
It was first-person shooter.
Yeah.
Kind of BioShock inspired.
Yeah.
Aesthetically, maybe?
Yes, definitely aesthetically reminded me of BioShock quite a bit.
Yeah.
Like Total Chaos, this is an FPS that's kind of like a psychological horror.
Yeah.
But with Twisted Tower, the trauma that you're reconciling is being cucked.
Yes.
So I like that.
Yes. You're a short little guy. You were sent off to war. Your name is literally Tiny.
That's true.
Well, probably not literally, but everyone calls you that.
Yeah.
While you're off at war, the girl you're fancying decides she needs to be with someone who makes more money.
Yeah.
So when you come back, some weirdo has sent you an invitation to the Twisted Tower, where you can make a lot of money, maybe. Well, that's what you think. You think the treasure is going to be money.
Yeah.
But it turns out the treasure at the top of the Twisted Tower, he has that girl captive.
Yes, he kidnapped her.
Yes.
And is in the tower.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta rescue her
by shooting a lot of mascots.
Yes.
This is also a mascot horde.
Yes,
game, but
that's true.
It's the mascots who are experiencing the horde.
Yes.
Because boy, did I plow through a bunch of those. Were they bears? Some giraffes?
Yeah. There's a bear, there's a giraffe. I think there was a duck. The duck is the one that had the Tommy gun.
Yeah, the duck was kind of annoying. And then there's a little like phones on wheels, were they? There's something small on.
Yeah, I think it's a telephone on wheels that has like teeth.
Yeah.
I forgot about those.
And there was like one big clown right at the end of the demo.
That's right. Yeah, there was kind of a sort of extended combat section.
Yeah, they lock you in sort of the main lobby, and you have to fight a bunch of guys till they unlock it.
And there's a couple like big clowns that you have to kill.
Mm-hmm.
But it was interesting enough, I think.
Yeah, I didn't like nothing about it. Was like, whoa, this is amazing. But I thought it executed everything it did like solidly enough.
Yeah,
like it doesn't like, despite the BioShock-ish aesthetic, it's definitely not going for anything as rich as that narratively.
Yes, definitely.
Like, yeah, it's definitely got sort of a tongue-in-cheek feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of like, honestly, like reminded me sort of the Twisted Metal games in setup, because like those have like some sort of strange person setting up some sort of violent challenge for someone to get a wish.
Yeah,
but of course
that's an interesting connection to make. I like that a lot.
First person shooter.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like meant to be like a roguelike.
Yeah, not.
But
you could buy upgrades, but they do seem more persistent.
But the places that you kind of traverse through feel kind of modular.
They do, yeah.
And then there's also like ways to like upgrade your guns, and I do like the currency that you use to upgrade are tickets, like Chuck E. Cheese tickets.
That's very
I thought that was funny. Oh yeah, and I have my notes here. It reminds me of an old light gun shooter called Carnival.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was a Midway game.
Yeah, that feels right. This does have like kind of a Midway-ish attitude, so it wouldn't surprise me if that was an inspiration.
Yeah. But yeah, it seems interesting.
Yeah.
For me, I'd say maybe wait for a sale.
I think that's about where I am at as well.
But as far as FPSs go, the shooting felt good enough. It didn't feel particularly like punchy though.
Yeah. I wonder. Let's see. There was the pistol. There was the mallet. There was the Tommy gun. Did you ever? I think that was it.
That's all I can remember. Yeah.
There wasn't like a shotgun or anything.
Yeah.
I feel like they may have teased like a rocket launcher at some point, but I don't think they ever gave it to you.
You also got like a grappling.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
But that was mostly like a traversal and puzzle thing.
I feel like if they let you use the grappling hook in combat, that would really like amp it up a notch, give you more movement abilities. That would be pretty fun, but they haven't yet.
Yeah.
It seemed like the grapple was pretty limited to what you can grapple to.
Yeah.
But maybe that's something they'll explore in the full game. Okay. Almost till the end. Wanderstop.
Did you play this one?
I did, yes.
Okay, yeah, me too.
The new game from Davey Reardon, creator of the Stanley Parable and the Beginner's Guide.
That's what got me interested.
Yeah, this is a kind of game I probably would have skipped if it didn't have that authorial sign on it, because I'm not really into like the big cozy like. I guess it's not really a farming game, but it's got farming elements. Cozy management.
Yeah, cozy management. Yeah, yeah. You have to like make tea, and there's like there's like steps.
Yeah, you have to grow plants to get seeds, and then also get fruit from the plants.
Yeah.
And then you throw the fruit and tea leaves into a big tea machine.
Yeah, and everything's like extremely whimsical.
It's very whimsical.
Yeah. But yeah, like just as you said, like I don't think I would have even tried this game had it not had the pedigree of the Stanley Parable behind it.
I am curious about where it's going story wise, because like his previous games have quite a narrative heft to them, and this definitely seems like tackling issues of maybe burnout, or maybe just like having to give up on a dream you had at one point. I'm curious, and I think there's enough story interest that I'd be willing to like check it out down the line, but like it's not really like a game mechanically I'm super drawn to.
Yeah, it's not the kind of gameplay that I find particularly engaging.
Like even compared to something like Stardew Valley, I feel like that has a lot more room for just like player expression and
definitely
mechanical interest, and this seems to be much more limited.
Yeah, it really feels like it's going to be hinging on its story for its appeal.
So this might be. I'm kind of like maybe waiting for reviews here to see if people think it's
really
something
put that
special
there too. Yeah.
Otherwise, maybe not for me. All right, and the last one is something I played called Your House.
Okay.
I mean, I would compare this to like how you were talking about the suspense. This is like definitely, I think, the shortest demo I played. But despite that, I really felt like I got like a good feeling for what this thing is doing. Game wise, I guess this is maybe like a prequel to another game this developer did that I haven't heard of, and I forget the name of. But the idea is that you experience this game through like reading a book, or maybe more like a journal that the main character is keeping. And you have to interact with the world by sort of like interacting through the words in the book. So like you click words and like maybe something goes into your inventory, or maybe you like look at something or open up something. Like the story is like you're a girl at boarding school, and apparently this is the latest in a string of boarding schools you've been kicked out of. And then on your 18th birthday, you find out your best friend or your boyfriend is cheating on you with your best friend, and then you get hit by a car. So it's just an awful 18th birthday. When you get back to your dorm, you find a postcard from a mysterious address you don't recognize, just wishing you a happy birthday. So you decide to just say, fuck it, sneak out of boarding school, hotwire your best friend's, I think it's a moped.
And
the way you hotwire it is like I described, sort of you have to read through the text in the story, and then like it opens up sort of like almost a diagram of how hot working works, and you have to like join everything together.
Okay,
Then
interesting.
you get to the house, and you have to like decode like clues on the postcard to enter in a code that lets you inside, and then the demo ends, and it sort of sets up its story hooks. So there's not a lot there, but it like sets itself up mechanically pretty well. I think it says like, this is what we're doing, and I think the fact that it's so short is just like down to it's definitely keeping its cards close to the chest story wise.
Yeah, that
because
definitely.
like the trailer showcases like they don't want you to know anything about what's going on in the house, and apparently after the main character moves in, like some sort of mysterious figure starts showing up outside the house and looking inside. There's clearly something going on that it doesn't want to tease until full game, and I think like compared to like something like Am I Nemo, which I think like maybe gave away too much in its demo, I respect that this wants to keep things under wraps, but I really did like what I saw.
Cool.
So I think this is probably on the wish list for me.
Okay.
But if like there's a lot there story wise that seems interesting, I might bump it up to a stream game.
Sure. All right.
And that's it.
Yeah, we got everything filled out. Nice.
I thought maybe we could like pick like our top 5 games we played. I have my list ready.
Okay.
But I might put in some bonus tiers for the finalists so we can each show off our top 5.
Okay.
For me, number 5, Kathy Rain 2, Soothsayer.
Okay.
Number 4, Skin Deep. Number 3, Creepy Redneck Dinosaur Mansion 3. Number 2, Deliver at All Costs. And number 1, Culebra and the Souls of Limbo.
Okay. So for me, I think my number 5 would be Kara Quest 64.
Okay.
And one thing I forgot to add about Kara Quest 64, as I said, obviously very inspired off of Super Mario 64. But one thing I found interesting about it, like the sort of aesthetic, the art style, and even the music, reminded me much more of like Sega Dreamcast.
Oh, really? That's nice. I wish there were more like Dreamcast, like retro-ish games.
Yeah. And then number 4, I would put Shotgun Cop Man.
Okay.
And then number 3, I would put Neo Junk City. And then number 2, I would put Skin Deep.
Okay. And then number 1,
of course, Moves of the Diamond Hand.
All right. I'll add those onto the tier list and then maybe post a final image.
Yeah.
In the Discord. But
yeah.
I think that should do it for tonight. I'm glad it was a very fun Next Fest.
Yes, this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed Next Fest.
Even though a few big titles disappointed me, there's like so much quality on display.
Yeah.
Found stuff I'd never seen before that really excites me.
Yeah. Compared to the previous Next Fest, there's much fewer things that just straight up disappointed me. There's stuff I played last Next Fest that were just straight up bad, and I just closed down, just I couldn't keep playing it.
Yeah.
But none of this stuff was really that particularly bad, so I was pretty pleased with it.
Yep.
I'm excited with a lot of the stuff here.
Yeah. I know. For me, I think the first thing coming out for me on my top 5, Creepy Redneck Dinosaur Mansion comes out in April.
Oh, okay.
So I might have to give that a shot.
Yeah, I don't know what the release cadence is for any of the stuff I listed.
I think for me, Culebra and Deliver at All Costs, and I think Kathy Rain are supposed to come out this year. I'm not sure about Skin Deep.
Okay.
But we'll have to see. Oh, one pedigree thing. I guess the developers of Skin Deep made Quadrilateral Cowboy, a game I haven't played myself, but I've heard good things about it. It's like a hacking game. I think it has like a similar vibe to Skin Deep. Okay. So might have to look into that.
Might be worth checking out. Cool.
Yeah. We'll be back tomorrow with
Anachronox. Yeah. And then Yakuza on Friday.
Yep.
All right. Well, this is fun.
It was.
I look forward to whenever the next Fest is. It's like twice a year, right?
I think 3. I think they do February, June, and I want to say October. And
okay. Cool. Nice.
I think October.
Yeah. All right. We'll be back tomorrow.